Yo. It's Grapsody with Will, Phil, and Reg, trying to keep it real instead of what you usually get from these talking heads. It's Grapsody, we're here to fill the void. 3 black fans, different perspective, got to fill your voice. Coming with the podcast, talking majors, indies in between. Yeah, it's all that, and we're down with Fightful, better fall back. Coming for respect, we connect like a ball bat. No need to double check, these are all facts. You're listening to us talk raps. You're listening to us talk raps. Will, Phil, and Reg. Yeah, we're Grapsody, here to talk raps. Yeah, we're Grapsody, here to talk raps.
That's right. From Sami Zayn winning or getting turned on to Cody Rhodes winning the Royal Rumble. If it happened in a squared circle this week, at least that's the thing I used to say, Grapsody will have it covered. Welcome to Grapsody. I'm Will Washington. Philip Lindsay's also here.
Yeah. Sorry, took us a minute. Technical difficulty down. But it is what it is.
It was bad too. It was like if it wasn't issues as far as like it started with Reg and then all of a sudden like Phil's computer's giving him problems and like I think the only reason mine wasn't is because I do so many shows at this point. I just keep StreamYard open. And so, like, I never
just permanently open on your computer.
I like never left StreamYard from the time that I did the last show. I actually came down and I was like, "Why is my camera?" Oh yeah, that's right. I never turned it off after the last show. So, you know. But also, there's like never anybody in this space anyway. So if you're thinking StreamYard is spying on my house, you're not getting anything out of that because there's nothing happening in this room. Also here, though, is Righteous Reg.
It's your boy, Media Man, your favorite rapper, your favorite writer, your favorite podcaster, also having technical difficulties. So I'm hooked up to Ethernet cable like it's old school, like we're 1996, to make sure this connection is hidden because we got to talk about Uncle Howdy. What's so funny, Will Washington? You don't want to talk about Uncle Howdy?
Oh, I want to talk about Uncle Howdy. Are you kidding me? Of course I want to talk about Uncle Howdy. I could do Uncle Howdy all week.
Listen, that 3 seconds from SmackDown was like the hottest thing that they've done all this whole time.
Oh, wow. This is
3 seconds of Bray being in the chair, Uncle Howdy touching his shoulder and then looking back. Hot. Everything else, trash.
All right, look, we got a lot to talk about this week, and I want to start off by saying thank you, everybody, for being patient for the late start, and if you want to send us a super chat and support what we do here and help us continue to do this show, look, youtube.com/Fightful, that's where they're at, and leave us a thumbs up while you're there. You're sitting there, just hit that thumbs up button and then don't think about it again. And also humperchats.com is how you can send us a humper chat. And I have those open in another window. At least I want to make sure I have them open in another window. Let's just go over to the tab that I normally keep that open in. And bam, I got humper chats up.
The humpas.
So again, you can send us Humper Chats. We actually got one. This one was sent hours ago. And that's the beauty of Humper Chats is that you could send those at any time. So Anwar, just thinking about sending us a question. How long ago was this? You sent this 5 hours ago. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Anwar. Appreciate you. Had to have been like 5 o'clock in the morning. That's all right. But again, he says, is Seth in the same position with Roman that Naito found himself with Okada when his epic run was going? And then a follow-up question was, how would the world look at Scottie Pippen if he won the NBA championship in 93, 94, or 99, or 98, 99? Keep up the great work.
I don't know what they're doing with Seth, man. I get that they think wrestling Logan Paul is a big deal because, you know, the mainstream attention and everything. Mm-hmm. But it is kind of weird that this is the second year in a row that you've brought him to WrestleMania with no real storyline.
With nothing. Yeah.
And I feel like he's clearly been the MVP of that company last year. Like, I don't even think that's really debatable. Like, I don't know. I don't understand it. But It is what it is. Like I think at least that match is going to be good. I thought that quote from the interview he did outside of WWE where he's talking about Logan, he was cooking.
Hmm.
But this is again when we talked about the CM Punk thing and people were like, "Oh, he's shooting." I was like, "Listen to how he was talking in character in that interview. It's very similar to how he was talking about CM Punk and other thing with Nick Hausman. No, he's working.
Right. I think this is kind of the issue with WrestleMania and the part-time thing. This is the complete issue is Seth Rollins, just like you said, has been the MVP of WWE. Every time he's on screen, he's trying to be the best that he could be. And then when it comes to the big show, they're like, well, we need these spots for these guys that aren't here all the time. And it's pretty unfortunate for a guy like Seth Rollins, who deserves to be in the fucking main event if we're keeping it real, you know?
Yeah, I've been chuckling every time he is in the ring with Austin Theory now, and he's supposed to be promoting this Elimination Chamber match, United States Championship match, and he's just like, "No, I want to headline WrestleMania."
Right.
He just keeps saying it, like, "Yo," like he's made it known, like, "No, that's what I want to do. I don't want to be here. I want to be over there."
Yeah. Totally. And he deserves it. And then for the second part of the question, we just had a 2323 day yesterday, right? Like that was a big deal in Chicago where they're like people were they bald caps all over the city yesterday, Phil, or what?
Nah. Um, the
I'm just
second
thinking of
part,
that one picture of that guy that's all dressed in Michael Jackson gear with the bald head. He's like doing Michael Jordan cosplay.
yeah, the second part of that question is interesting because I don't know, man. Pip has been kind of on the shit list for the last year or so. He went on that press tour and he was saying a lot of weird stuff, and I was just
Whole
like,
bunch of weird stuff.
I'm just like, what are you on, Pip? But I do think that he would be seen differently if at least if the Bulls made it to the finals that year after Mike stepped away, and I think he came out of that looking pretty bad because at least they showed it again in Last Dance, him not wanting to go back in the game when Phil made the play for Kukoc instead of him, and he took it away. And as we've seen in the press tour he was on last year, he still felt the way that he didn't get that play. He didn't get a chance to prove himself in that moment. And I've always read that very differently than he did. I felt like Phil was trying to save him from himself
Yep.
because I feel like it wasn't so much that he didn't believe Pip could make that shot. That's specifically what Kukoc was brought here for. He was specifically brought here for those kind of plays. So he knew Kukoc could hit that shot. But just the fact that there was a question of if Pip can hit that shot, he didn't want to put him in a spot where if he missed that shot, then that would be the question from now on. And it might have damaged his confidence.
Mm.
And that's what you're supposed to do as a coach. You're supposed to put people in positions where you know they're going to succeed.
I mean, that's why if Jackson got all them rings, he ain't got all them rings for nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think people would have looked at him very differently, at least if he made it to the finals without Mike. Because now it looks like all of his success came next to Michael Jordan.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't know. This last couple of months with Larza and Marcus Jordan.
Shit. What a saga.
What a saga.
But I
That
mean, even not even just that, the Larsa and future stuff. Larsa
Yeah,
been out
yeah.
here, bro. Like, oh,
Right.
but the thing is, like, Future's one thing. Marcus Jordan is a
Like
complete
Michael
other
Jordan is crazy. Like Future is like, oh, okay, but Michael Jordan's son is wild. That's about as wild as you can get.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Shout out to her though.
Pip
She's
is
fine.
taking some. Pip is taking some L's definitely recently. But hey, shout out to the guy. Hopefully whatever the whiskey brand is selling well. I don't know how well that book is selling.
I'm sure him and Isaiah Thomas go to lunch and just bury Mike.
I know he hates Isaiah too.
Oh,
Pip hates Isaiah, bro. Oh no,
Isaiah was on everybody's shit list.
nah. Pip hates him, man.
we got some other super chats. This one is from Kyle. It says, I usually don't miss an episode of Grapsody, but after seeing that Bray match and y'all's reaction to it on Twitter, this was one I knew I couldn't miss. Bray can cut a promo, but when it comes to the big match, Reg is absolutely right. Bray is him.
Leave me out of this, okay, Kyle? I want no parts in this.
Hey, man.
You don't want the smoke?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Bray. What a guy.
But again, they made it like honestly.
guy.
I'm gonna give my little bitty take. Just make horror movies, dude. Just be a horror villain like you want to be. Because that video that they showed last night, it was like this guy's fucking Mike Myers, this guy's Jason. It's like just go be that, so we don't have to go through these bullshit matches that are the worst fucking matches that I've ever seen. That you take all the heat off the person that you're wrestling that's supposed to be getting over. How do you get? And then like Will Washington said that like LA Knight looked horrible. I didn't think so. And then they played that clip and I was like, damn, Bray fucking buried him. He's like walking through his strikes. I'm like, dude, you're not Jason. This isn't a fucking Friday the 13th movie. Why are we doing this? And if you want to do this, bring back WWE films. See No Evil 3 with fucking Bray Wyatt.
Evil 3.
And we'll be good. You got Rob P or whatever his name is. Go make the movie so we don't have to see this bullshit.
Look, okay, and when I said that, because I don't like to use the term buried a lot, I really don't. But you know, when I think about a quote burial per se, the thing that I try to pay attention to is what the other person got out of it, and that was where I was like, Bray didn't take a bump in that match, like that was.
You take the table bump and the fucking Mountain Dew drips or whatever that was supposed to be.
Yeah, but like. Is
So
that what that was supposed to be? Wait, I didn't even think about that.
So are we officially into Bray talk now?
I want to read a few more super chats. Let's get the early ones out because there's a lot to talk about here. Because, for example, I think this is going to be a huge topic today. Jake Salazar said WWE about to Batista, Cody, and Daniel Bryan, Sami. I don't think that's the case.
Different.
And the reason I don't think that's the case is because we'll get into it.
Yeah.
But I think it's not quite an
They're
accurate
in the
comparison.
butter this time. It's different.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, well, I think the biggest difference is that there was no alternative. Like, what the alternative plan was for Daniel Bryan was nothing. It was like
Not
they
be
didn't.
on the show.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, because he was supposed to, like, all the Wyatt family stuff, speaking of Bray Wyatt, was Bryan was just supposed to stick with the group. That gear he wore at WrestleMania was Wyatt family attire.
Right.
That he was going to be involved in all the stuff that was happening with Cena. And then it was like, well, they never finished the world title story. Like, Sammy's getting his world title match. That was the issue with Bryan, was that it was like Bryan got screwed out of the WWE title. What the last match he had was Hell in a Cell, Randy Orton. He got screwed by Shawn Michaels, and then we moved on. We never, like, it wasn't like okay, he's going to get some comeuppance on Shawn Michaels. He's going to get some comeuppance on, or Shawn Michaels is going to get his comeuppance. Hunter's going to get his comeuppance. Somebody's going to get something for what happened to Bryan at Hell in a Cell. No, they just planned to move on and just now we're moving Bryan over into this Wyatt family thing, and that's it.
Yeah, the difference is like the fans forced Daniel Bryan, and in this case, they forced Sami Zayn. Like, they did this, they got themselves in this position, not the fans. Like, they booked this for fans to really get into this. Kind of different than like us hijacking the show. It wasn't like really a hijack.
But like, here's a good example, right? I think here would be an apt comparison. So it's looking like, if I were to make a prediction, that Jey Uso, where he's at right now, is probably, you know, everybody's wondering what's Jey Uso going to do. He's not there. I bet you he returns and at Elimination Chamber turns on Sami Zayn, realigns with his family, and then that leads to WrestleMania, Kevin and Sami versus the Usos, right? So,
but also,
the thing is, so let's go back to the Daniel Bryan comparison. Daniel Bryan did have his title match at Hell in a Cell against Randy Orton, and then Shawn Michaels turned on Daniel Bryan, cost him the WWE Championship. If the plan at that time was, all right, now at WrestleMania, it's going to be Daniel Bryan versus Shawn Michaels, the fans would have accepted that. They would have been like, oh shit, a dream match, Daniel Bryan versus Shawn Michaels. You know, yeah, he got screwed out of the title, but at least he's now going after the person who screwed him. People would have accepted that. They would have actually been like, okay, this is actually really cool and a much better thing for Daniel Bryan, because at least that story's getting paid off. But they didn't. Literally the next night, Daniel Bryan is just like, I'm not going after Shawn Michaels. It was like, okay, then what are we doing here?
it's just not the same thing, because
it's not the same.
as Sammy made very clear last night, he never wanted anything from Roman. This was never about being champion for him. It was always about being champion for Cody. So it's not the same thing at all.
It's not the same. But we'll
Cody
get a
was
little
trying
more.
to be WWE champion in AEW. Like that's how hard he's been going for this title.
But like Van Twinblade says, Sammy must take the Universal title. They will Brian him if he
not gonna
doesn't.
happen.
I don't think so, and I don't think it's
not gonna
happening. I think the story between Sammy and Roman is going to get its conclusion, but it's going to get it at Elimination Chamber. But I'll say this: this is the most anybody has had to talk about a WWE major storyline in years. So look, they have done something right here. This is a storyline we're all into.
I watched SmackDown.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about that too. Big Hero Chris says, I drank a Mountain Dew Pitch Black now, and now Uncle Howdy is outside of my job. Help me, please.
I mean, if this match was supposed to promote Pitch Black, it worked because I've seen a lot of people on the timeline drinking Pitch Black or making jokes about Pitch Black.
Definitely.
This was to get attention on Mountain Dew. Then hey, the corporate was corporate and it worked.
Give an assist to young Cody though for his press conference though, because he did his work too in 30 seconds.
Cody definitely did the I got the Sprite in you, twist it and take a sip and look straight in the camera. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I just hope that this isn't one of those cases where we see a commercial in a few years that says, in 2023, did you drink a Mountain Dew Pitch Black? If so, you may be entitled to compensation.
You may have mesothelioma.
Not mesothelioma. Yeah, I was expecting like at one point like Cody taking a sip like, you can really taste the spermicide. Remember when people thought that Mountain Dew made you? Like that was a crazy time period. People really believed like Mountain Dew made you sterile.
I did. Honestly.
I was like, it wasn't true.
Like I was like, I am not taking chances. I am not drinking Mountain Dew.
Like, have I seen the science fact sheet yet? I don't know if it's not true.
I was definitely one of them teenagers who was like, I want kids one day. Keep me away from Mountain Dew. And look, I got 2 kids, so obviously.
I guess it worked for you.
And I don't drink Mountain Dew, so I am the anecdotal evidence that it works. Let's see. So we also got Marcus Thomas says, 12 steps for Wyatt fans. Vignettes, hype, talk for months, storytelling, let it play out, announce the match, happy, bad match, denial, make excuses, blame WWE/Vince, and repeat. That's actually really accurate.
I mean, meh.
Look, the sad thing is, and the reason I say this is because this doesn't just describe Bray in his current form. Like, literally, this is The Fiend.
Meh.
But look, I'm not going to spend this whole show dogging on Bray. I didn't even put him in the description or graphics because I think the thing to mainly talk about is the Sami, Roman, Cody stuff. And there's other stuff to talk about as well. CBD's Nuts says, what's up, y'all? So glad to be able to watch live today. I'm in ATX and we had a crazy ass freezing rainstorm this week. Hundreds of trees down and over 100,000 without power still. Damn.
Yeah. Shout out to the people in Texas. I've seen people ice skating out there without ice skates like all week. Like it's been crazy.
That sounds crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I will say it's been very cold here lately. But we're finally getting some warmer weather. It's 43 today. It's funny. I say that as warmer, and Reg literally posted the other day 43.
43. That's freezing.
I went for a walk yesterday. I was like, damn, I can finally go outside and go for a walk. I went and picked my son up from school, and we walked home because there's some bully kid that he's trying to avoid on his walks. So I figure, I don't know. I don't know what the right move on that is, right? It's like, do I step in here?
Kid's ass.
I'm like, do I step in here and like show him that, at some point dad's around, and
Don't
You know,
give him bad advice, because a
This
lot of
what
parents
this what his daddy look like.
give their kids bad advice when it comes to bullies. Like the
Yeah.
worst advice of all time that all parents during a certain time just ignore them. That never works.
Yeah, that does not work.
Never works.
Worse
Just
than-
ignore them. They'll go away. No,
They
that
won't.
does not work.
They will not go
Does
away.
not work.
so this kid is 2 years ahead of Billy. So he's in the fifth grade.
Ah.
Billy's in the third grade. So it's not like somebody from his grade. I don't think Billy would be afraid of somebody in his grade, but this kid's like a foot taller than him. And so, so the funny thing was, I had to ask because that determined. Look, it's just going to determine how I handle things. But me and Billy are driving. I turn around. I go, Billy, is this kid white or black? And Billy goes, he's white. And I was like,
knew it was
okay,
coming.
we're going to handle this.
Yeah. I knew it.
And I was like, okay, because I wasn't sure. I like legit wasn't sure. I wanted to know how, because there's a different dynamic there when it's there just is. And so I had to ask, and like Billy could have chimed in and been like, actually, Daddy's Mexican, and then I would have been like, okay, I wasn't prepared for that answer, but.
You know the interesting thing, I had some bullies in my life, and they were all black people. Like I never had a white bully in my life.
Oh no, I mean, well, that's the thing is I grew up in a black neighborhood, right? And so that was there were literally 2 white kids in my class. So most of the things I got like bullied for were oddly enough the stuff I was like most proud of. And so it was like, well, it's not like things I can run away from because like I was always really good with computers. Like I was Urkel, okay? And that was like
Nerd.
hey, right, but like at the same time, hey, you needed all the codes for your favorite Sega Genesis games. Guess who's got them memorized?
Exactly.
So,
And I'm sure when they started burning CDs, like you were the guy to go to, right?
I was the guy for burning CDs. And are you kidding me? When I got my first DVD burner in 2002,
Oh my god!
yeah, okay, you want that copy of Scary Movie 2? Guess who's got it? So,
Word.
I'm not lying.
Yeah, I know. I believe it. I believe it.
But so, what was funny was, yeah, at the time. But so, yeah, I was mostly like any bullies I ever dealt with. I think I've told the story on this show. Maybe I haven't, that I got beat up over. And it's funny because Reg and I were just talking about it before the show, but I had this Bone Thugs and Harmony picture that
I forgot.
that this kid beat me up over in the 4th grade. And like I like that kid stomped the shit out of me. But I definitely told that story on the show. But anyway.
For the refresher, though.
For the
You
refresher.
getting stomped out over a Bone Thugs picture. It's
That's right. You had the
Same
best
reaction.
response to it at the time.
That is crazy.
That is crazy.
I forgot Reg did the whole "What you going to do?"
Oh yeah, when right there. There's nowhere. I don't remember that.
So anyway, though, so yeah, it was one of those things where I had to kind of approach it differently because there is a different approach. I do have experience with being bullied by other black kids, and then experience with like the white kid experience is different for me, right? Because I had that. One of my worst, my childhood trauma. Everybody's got that childhood traumatic story, and mine was that we moved when I was 10 out of a predominantly black neighborhood to a predominantly white neighborhood because that, especially at the time, old black folks, aka my parents, that's the sign that you've moved up is, when can we get into the nice neighborhood, right? And so, my parents did it. They were able to buy a house, and we moved, and we got into this neighborhood where all of a sudden I was the only black kid. I think I was like one of 2 black kids in my entire grade, and so like my childhood trauma around that was that I remember I sat down at the lunch table. And there were these white kids all sitting around. They were just telling jokes. And they see me. And they were like, should we stop? And they're like, no. Maybe he'll find this funny. And they're like, hey, Will, what do you call a bunch of black guys running down a hill? Like, I don't know what. And they're like, a mudslide. High five. And I'm like, man, that's like not funny. Like 10-year-old me is like, It's not even that that's offensive. That's just like not funny.
It's just not funny.
It's not funny. And then they just started telling a bunch of other racist jokes. They were like talking about Mexicans, all this stuff. And I'm like, have these people like ever met a Mexican? Have these people ever met another black kid? And I remember I went home, said something to my mom.
You went home and gave to Jaden Smith. I hate it here.
I had gotten there. Yeah, I got close. That happened. But so I went home and told my mom. My mom was like, "What?" My mom storms up to the school the next day. It gets all up in the principal's shit. She's like, "That is not the experience my son is going to have here." The principal's all apologetic, and she's like, "I am so sorry. You know, this is not in my school. That is not a thing that would happen in my school. I very much apologize for your son's experience."
Not my America.
And she's like, "And these children will be dealt with." And
Sure they will.
oh, they were, which made it fucking worse because all of a sudden,
Burger King or something.
no, so because all of a sudden, all them kids got detention, all them kids got in trouble for it, and they all looked around and went, "Well, gee, we were able to tell these jokes before, and when there weren't any problems. What changed between the now and the last time we were able to tell these jokes? Oh, Will Washington's here. He's the problem." So then it became a problem because then everything became worse at school because
I was about to say, look, no, the principal totally didn't fix this. These totally turned into future Trump voters.
Oh, absolutely. No, I looked them up. I actually, to this day, because I know their names vividly, and I look them up, and they got flags in there.
They're like senators, and they're they're like high up there.
Literally, I went to one of their Facebook pages. There's just an eagle and an American flag, and I was like, of course. But either way, so that was my experience with that, and I recognized like I spent the rest of my days at that school, basically feeling like, well, shit, I can't say anything anymore because if I say something, it's going to make the experience worse. But if I continue to let it happen, then the experience sucks. So yeah, I did turn into Jade Smith every day. I hate it here, right? And so like that's my experience with that. So like that's a really sensitive issue to me. So when Billy tells me that no, it's a white kid that's picking on me on my way to school, I'm like, okay, how are we going to deal with this? Because the neighborhood we live in is like extremely diverse. It's when I talk about like melting pot culture, it's like you can't pick out predominantly anybody at this school because it's like you can't. Half the kids look like Drake. Like it is such a like melting
and
pot.
they're all actually named Aubrey too.
like what do we even do with this? But yeah, I still don't really know the solution.
Yeah, I'm like, what did you say? Because clueless.
So what's interesting is that Billy has a black principal, right? So like, and that dude's like 7 feet tall, and I'm not exaggerating there. So like, Billy, like I was like, "Do you want me to talk to the principal?" And his name's Andre, by the way, too.
Y'all gonna all run up on him together. You gonna come out like, "Man, this right here, this is your principal, and he's 7 feet tall, and you can't teach that."
No, and so I asked Billy, I was like, "You want me to talk to the principal for you?" Because I was like, I know that created issues for me, but that was also, there was a redheaded white lady, like there's a difference there. Billy was like, "No, I want to talk to the principal," and I was like, "Okay, if you're comfortable enough to do that, you go ahead and just let me know how it goes." So this was all yesterday. I don't know what the outcome of this is about to be, but I know that. Bottom line here, folks, parenting does not come with a manual, and there's like no easy solution for anything. And sometimes you have to vent your thoughts on a podcast to even like know what your
Will
outcome.
Smith and Jazzy Jeff are right. Parents just don't understand.
No, we don't. We think we do because we think we can relate, but
Can't.
Nah. Let's see. We got CBD's Nuts also says, "I went 60 hours without power myself." 60 hours?
Jeez.
That's almost 3 days.
That's a long time.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, I'm glad everything's back to normal. I mean, that's the hard thing about Texas, right? Is that, when they had that last snowstorm, that ended up being one of the bigger issues that they encountered was the fact that, Texas isn't necessarily... Everyone probably has said at some point, hey, I'm moving to Texas because
Ooh.
it's
Yeah.
because it's cheaper to live, right? Like
Yeah.
that is Texas. But one of the things that Texas got away with, and there's good reason they got away with it, they should have, was that they didn't necessarily have to build the infrastructure for being prepared for inclement weather. And
Yeah.
that
That's a lot of southern states.
yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the thing though, is that for the most part they were able to get away with that, right? Like they can use cheaper roofs because they don't have to deal with holding snow on top for days at a time and things along those lines. But then we saw what happened when they got that, what most states would have considered a minor snowstorm. We had ceilings caving in, we had, houses falling apart, things along those lines. And it's like, yeah, that's the drawback, is that they didn't necessarily put the money into the infrastructure for it because they didn't have to. But when it came time, because our climate's kind of doing some wild things right now, where you see kind of the side effects of it, where you can be without power for 3 days at a time. So hearts out to Texas on all of that.
Yeah, shout out to all the Texas homies.
Yes, and there's a lot of them. Jake says, "Hey Reg, you see your boy Howdy trying to jump scare people? I mean, he did, and he liked it.
I liked it.
He liked it. What can you say to that? We got another one that's from. Let's see. This one is from Tony P. Shout out Tony. He says, "Will there be genuine shock if they give Sami the belt for a short Foley-like run before Mania? Also, what would be a personally satisfying way for you to book that? Also, who will be the first two AEW women to get a 5-star match? Not named Sheeta will," from Dave.
Do people think the biggest star in the company, he's 800 plus days world champion, is going to lose before the biggest fucking show of the year? Are you guys serious? I want to be serious about this.
He's not losing, bro.
The biggest star in the
that ship
company.
sailed months ago. If they were gonna split those titles or have somebody else beat him before WrestleMania, that would have happened last year.
Yeah, they're not going to do it a month before. That's crazy.
And I have said that I believed for a long time, pretty much since he won the title, splitting him was a bad idea. And I keep seeing people saying, well, maybe Cody said he's only going to go for the WWE Championship. And it's like Cody is just being casual with what he was talking about. Cody never said specifically, I want the WWE Championship. It's just Cody, when he was speaking about titles, was like, I want to be WWE Champion. And people took that as, well, he must mean that he just wants the black belt, not the blue one.
I think he did mean that, but I think it's also that he stepped into a situation where they had already put 2 titles on one guy. And I don't think that meant that they're going to split the titles, because like I said, it's too late. They should have split the titles a long time ago, but now
it's much too late.
Now 2 months before WrestleMania, it's too late.
But I don't see any scenario where you could have split the titles. Like they booked themselves into it once Roman had both belts.
But that's kind of my point. They booked themselves into a corner.
Well, right. I'm saying, but the moment Roman had both belts, there was no way out. There's no way out of that. He's got both belts. The loss has to be both belts.
Go figure. Putting 2 belts on a guy that you don't want to lose might be a bad idea.
Because the reason is because like you think about what Cody said in that promo on Monday, where he was like, I'm going to beat the man who's been champion for 800 some odd days. Could you imagine if people's idea of him going straight after the WWE title came to fruition, where he's like, hey, I know you've been champion for 800 days, but I only want the belt you've had for 300. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Nobody would do that. No, you have to go for it all. Or better yet, it's like, hey, Kevin Owens got a shot at the undisputed belt. Logan Paul got a shot at undisputed. Brock Lesnar got a shot at undisputed. Hell, Matt Riddle got a shot at undisputed. But Cody's going to come in and go, actually, I know that's what you've been defending all this time, but I really just want that one. When, no. If you got a shot at both, you take the shot at both. That doesn't make any sense. It would make Cody look like a moron to give up the shot at both to just take it at one, when the reign now is because at the end, the goal now is to end Roman Reigns' 800 and some odd day reign.
Yeah.
That's the goal now.
Yes.
If he loses any belt that keeps that going, you didn't actually do anything.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's a terrible idea to put both belts on Cody, but at this point, there's no getting out of it because they've booked themselves in this corner. They should have never put both titles on him. It was always a bad idea. And now you're just gonna let Cody inherit this bad concept,
And then he can't lose one of them because that doesn't make sense.
You're gonna have to figure out a way to book him out of this as well. And I hope that they don't do anything stupid. But I'm of the opinion there's no satisfying way to split those belts at this point. They're just gonna have to rip the Band-Aid off at some point.
Definitely.
I think honestly, because the other thing that I feel here is I think it has to be acknowledged that there is not really like two belts. The undisputed title is one title. That is one title being represented by two belts. And that is okay in a sense. We've seen that before. Chris Jericho was undisputed champion, and Bryan Danielson and Cena and Randy Orton were all WWE World Heavyweight title. We've seen a case where two belts represents one title, and that's fine. I think right now we have one world championship. And ideally, that to me is still the ideal. I know Phil and I will always disagree on that, but I think one world championship is always ideal for one promotion. You have one promotion, you have one champion.
For other promotions, it doesn't necessarily work for the way that WWE does
for this promotion.
But WWE hasn't really tried it yet. That's the other thing too, is that
like they have two shows, they have two night WrestleManias.
But they had tried it. That's why they introduced the Universal title. Like they had tried it,
and it bombed. Like the Universal title, WWE title concept was flopped. Like that's not a thing that worked for them.
That's not why it flopped though. It didn't flop because there isn't a need for two titles. It flopped because they had a span of very bad things that happened to people that won that title. They didn't expect Finn Balor to rip his shoulder off off the bone. They didn't expect all this other stuff. And I mean, you can go into how they hurt themselves by booking Brock the way they did as Universal Champion, but I don't think that the problem was having two belts. I think the problem was, like I said, that belt kind of seemed cursed for a minute.
Yeah, well, I think that I think you either have to go all in or all out on two titles. But I think the halfway shit doesn't work. And what I mean by that is when I say all in, I mean like you can't have dual branded pay-per-views and two world titles. One has to, because like I think the time period for me where it was working was when it was you had Raw pay-per-views, you had SmackDown pay-per-views, and therefore you had a world championship represented on one set of pay-per-views, a world championship represented on the others. But the moment they said, all right, screw it, we're going back to Raw, SmackDown pay-per-views, every time one title was treated as lesser. And so I don't think you can do it. I don't think that you can present to the fans, hey, we have two titles, they're equals. But also, one's never going to get the spotlight.
But I've never seen them as equals. I've never seen that as a problem. I don't even think they need to be equals. I just think that it's shown.
But then, what's a world championship if it's not the top?
Yeah. But here's my thing. It's shown after all this time, a year of them being linked to titles. It's done nothing for Raw's main event scene. There is no main event scene on Raw. None. When is the last time anybody from Raw has challenged Roman?
Matt Riddle.
And that was what? 7 months ago.
A minute ago, yeah.
For all of the challengers under the Triple H era are Brock Lesnar,
Logan Paul.
Oh,
wait. Kevin Owens is on Raw. Actually, he hasn't had any SmackDown challengers. Drew McIntyre's been the only SmackDown challenger.
That's not true, though. Kevin Owens... do you think Kevin Owens and Sami are going for the SmackDown or Raw Tag Team Championships?
I think they're going for both.
I don't think they're going for both. I
don't think the Usos are going to lose before then.
I think they're clearly going for the SmackDown titles because they made a clear designation when Sami picked up those titles, and he looked at the SmackDown titles. Sami is a SmackDown superstar.
Yeah, Cody. I mean, he is on SmackDown, but I think they're going for both. I think they're just setting up ways for them to defend on each show. But I think they are going to end up going for the duel. Because again, the goal again for the Usos is the same deal. It's they have this super long reign, and they have to end this super long reign. And there's really no way to hand the Usos a loss and it not be like you don't want Braun Strowman and Ricochet to be the guys to end this super long title reign but then the Usos are also still champions. Like at the end of the day, both scenarios, Roman and the Usos, you have to end the record-setting reign, and the record-setting reign has to end with them walking away with no championships.
Both WrestleManias.
Yeah, to me, I just don't think putting both titles together has worked. It hasn't worked, and I think I think it's twofold problems that you put two titles on a guy that you don't want to lose, and then you put two titles on a guy that is working a part-time schedule. So I think
that was the issue. Honestly.
He's not going to appear on both shows, so you're hindering the main event scene on one show. And I get what you're saying. Yeah, KO is a Raw superstar, but most of the title picture and the storyline around that title has happened on SmackDown. It's not happening on Raw. And so I don't know. You put a ceiling on all of the guys on Raw. We just talked about Seth Rollins' year. After Seth Rollins' year, he should be in line for a world title match, but he can't be because you put two titles on a guy that cannot lose, and you don't have a destination for him on Raw. It's the same thing with Bobby Lashley. You have no destination for him after being United States champion, and I feel like that's a problem.
Yeah. I agree with both of you guys, so it's a WWE problem. Because honestly, I feel like there should be a universal champion. I feel like there should only be one champion, but WWE should have two champions. So you know what I mean?
I think if you had one, and if there's a guy who's willing to do it, it's Cody Rhodes. Yeah. I think if you had
Cody's going to change the perception of what's going on here.
Yeah. So I think if you had one single champion who was full time, I think this wouldn't even be a discussion.
Right.
I think that the issue right now is that you have one single champion who's not there, and when he is there, he's mostly on the other show. But I think if there's any person who's willing to step up and go, hey, guys, I'll not only work both sets of shows, I'll work both sets of house shows, it's Cody Rhodes.
Why do people keep forgetting about how over Cody Rhodes is? Like every time Cody's not on TV, they're like, well, he's going to get Daniel Bryan. But do you know how over Cody Rhodes is? Like it's not going to. He's not going to get hijacked, dude. It's Cody Rhodes, man.
I mean, he might, but I just think that...
so. Not at WrestleMania.
I think it's overblown because I think that... I think they see the contingency plans. I think that, again, people are comparing it to Daniel Bryan, but in all Daniel Bryan cases, there was never anything planned for Bryan.
Right.
Here's two examples. Of course, because I mentioned WrestleMania 30, where they at least gave him ultimately the spot. And then you look at WrestleMania 31, where WrestleMania 31 is a far worse case than WrestleMania 30, where you literally booked Daniel Bryan to come back. Again, if you weren't going to have Bryan win, I've constantly said the key to that was bring him back after the Royal Rumble. Right. But you had Bryan come back from a neck injury where he had to relinquish a title he never lost. He gets on the mic and says, I'm coming back to win the Royal Rumble. And fans were like, yeah, we're going to see him back in a spot that he didn't lose. And then you didn't have him win. Like the easy solution there was kind of like what I said last week with Sami Zayn. Keep him out of the Rumble. And then in that case, it's not, you don't even have that lingering over. But when you put Bryan in the Rumble, you put it in people's minds that he could win it, and then he lost. That was the worst thing they could do. And then on top of that, what did Bryan go on to do at WrestleMania? He was in a ladder match for the Intercontinental title. He didn't even have like a single storyline or anything else. He won that ladder match, but he didn't go on to have a single storyline. He didn't have anything that felt like, well, at least he still got something for what happened here. No, He just moved on. They didn't care. And like with Sami, there's still a way to pay off the bloodline storyline right now in a satisfying way. He's still going to stay with this storyline even after he loses to Roman. There's still an out here. There was no out for Bryan. I don't think this is a comparison.
I don't think it's a good comparison. What I do think is unfortunate, because it does seem like people are trying to will this rebellion against Cody into fruition. What I think is unfortunate is because you've got two titles, and now if Cody wins both titles, which again I think is a bad idea, you're now asking him to be on both shows, and you run the risk of overexposing him.
Yeah.
And I am very worried that that's going to happen.
Oh my God.
Hey, but you know what WWE has now that it didn't have then? To stop all of that from happening? That man with his NPC talking about cheer, boo.
Yes,
You turn the crowd down, and there's that button that's Cody, Cody,
I'm gonna
Cody.
keep it real with y'all. When Roman came out last night, I was like, "Is this real or is this?" I don't know what's real anymore. As far as
I don't know what's real anymore.
I don't know if cheering is real. I don't know if it's an MP3. I don't know anymore.
No, honestly, damn it, I'm gonna make this at some point when I'm bored enough. But you know the video of the dude with the NPC, and he's like making that that one beat that like everybody loves, right? And he's just like into it. You know that video, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna take that video and splice just like cheers and boos.
Boo! This is awesome.
Yeah.
I have to make that at some point.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like I said, I do think that they made the right choice with Cody. I don't even know why that's still up for the discussion if they made the right choice with Cody, because I don't know. How are we in the Royal Rumble talk or not? Can we get into this or not?
Sure. Let me read a couple of Humper chats that are kind of related. Because Jennifer says, "Happy Grapsody, much love, gents. Have an amazing weekend. Stay safe, stay warm." Thank you,
Jennifer.
We're staying warm. 47 degrees. It's 47 now. Look at that. Look, we're getting there. It's gonna be a nice day. Nice for February. And let's see, we got Kristen Mora says, "Do you think spooky wrestling can work in the modern world? What makes Uncle Howdy / Bray not work and the Undertaker's gimmick iconic? Thanks for your great show."
I have an answer to that. What makes
Go for it.
What makes that not work and what makes him iconic is nostalgia.
That's what I was gonna say.
That's what it is, because I think that some of the Undertaker stuff was just as questionable and it was just as divisive. Yeah. But the thing is, it's Undertaker, so people are not going to bash him the same way that they bash Bray. And honestly, I think the further and further we get away from Bray, I think some people are going to have the same nostalgia for him and defend him in the same way.
Certain.
It's just going to happen.
After Undertaker was buried, Royal Rumble 1994, and he flew into the ceiling, people weren't like, that was cool. They were like, that was weird.
No,
it's pro wrestling.
Undertaker did some very great wrestle crap. And by wrestle crap, I mean stuff that wasn't very good, but it was entertaining because it did make me laugh in a moment. Like, think of all of the memorable Undertaker stuff during the Ministry of Darkness era. Like, that's some of his most memorable stuff. All that stuff wasn't great, but it was memorable, entertaining TV. Like him in the limo. Where to, Stephanie? Like, that's not great, but it's a funny moment that we all think about.
Yeah, it is, and that's one of those like nostalgia goggles kind of covers everything, because I didn't know when I was a kid. I thought Undertaker versus Undertaker was the spookiest shit on earth. I'm like, how did they do that? How are there two Undertakers facing each other? Main event, United Center, SummerSlam 1994. Look, I was how old at that time? I would have been 7 years old. I thought that was the craziest, spookiest thing that's ever happened in life. I could not believe what was happening before my eyes. And only in hindsight did I learn people thought that sucked. And people thought that was awful. Thought that was trash. And not only that, but now that I look at it, I'm like, wait, he don't even like really look like him. Like he kind of does. Yeah. But why was
when I was that age, I thought they were twins. I was like, wow, they got two Undertakers. This is like the video game when you have one Undertaker versus the Undertaker. Mirror match.
You're right, though. That was how I felt about that. And so, like, I get that younger people are going to look at things happening today and go, well, no, that's my childhood. Of course this was great.
Yeah, and I think they're going to look back fondly on the Bray stuff. But older people that are just taken out by it and they're like, I don't like any of this stuff, they're always going to think it's lame. But I feel like that's the beauty of Bray. Like I said, I think Bray is always going to be divisive to fans. He's always going to be divisive. But I think for people that enjoy it, they're going to enjoy it. People that don't like it, they're going to always dump on it. Like, I feel like the Pitch Black match was either going to confirm what some people think about him, or it was going to simply be another instance where, hey, Bray took a risk and I enjoyed this because it was risky. Like I said, it's just two different crowds, man.
And
It
just like
is.
I said in that tweet, it took Undertaker more than 10 years to like have a good match. So like, you know what I mean? Like there's still time for old Brayson Wyatt.
Brayson, Brayson Tiller.
So yeah, we got who else do we have? I'm just trying to make sure I stay caught up on people. Okay. Let's see. Kristen Mora says, oh yeah, we just read that one. Yep, that was the one. Shot Kid 29 says, I don't disagree with you guys on Cody, but I do feel WWE is walking on a tightrope right now with him due to the Sami J. Roman story. And let's be real, when it comes to wrestling fans, all it takes is one misstep to turn the crowd on Cody.
I don't think WWE fans are about that shit anymore. Like things have changed.
Yes and no, but this
Who
is
they turn
again.
on?
Yes and no, but I think again the issue here isn't Cody. I think the issue here
Yes.
is the way that WWE booked its world title picture for a year because they hadn't built anybody else up to feel like a believable challenge to Roman in a year. But the only other guy that has been adjacent to him storyline wise is Sammy. So of course, people are jumping on the Sammy train because he's been the guy that's been the closest to him and they're invested now. They haven't been invested in any other challenger for a year. And that's been the problem. And so I think that's why so many people want Sammy to win. And it's the same thing with Cody. Like, I think Cody works because he's a new and fresh opponent, but at the same time, he hasn't been on TV for 7 months.
Yeah. Well, a little bit more. We got Aaron Busby. He says, Andreas, shout out Andreas, by the way. He's always been great to us. And
Yeah, he's great.
yeah, he's great.
Really good dude.
Drove me around Las Vegas back in May. Always appreciate him. He said that Bray Wyatt is like the M. Night Shyamalan of wrestling, and now I can't look at him the same, and I like Bray.
Man, look, he's going to live and die with risks. That's what it is. I mean, sometimes that risk ain't gonna work. Sometimes it will. That is what it is.
Oh, here's a good one. DVD movie buffer said.
We were talking about DVD
Because what we were talking
earlier.
about.
Yeah.
I know. He says, who is the most criminally underrated wrestler? I have an answer.
Current wrestler or of all time?
Either one.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just going to throw one out there that's not a current wrestler, except he wrestles on occasion. But this is a dude who.
You say Shelton Benjamin, I'm turning my TV off.
No. But this is a dude who had all of the tools, and he was a very, very good professional wrestler. But once a certain thing got over, none of that mattered anymore. And I'm talking about one Scotty Too Hottie. Actually, like when you watch that man like actually do what he had to do, that man
Not
was
expect that.
I know, right? But that man was an actually great wrestler, right? But then it was like once the worm got over,
Yeah.
you know, Vince was like, wrestle? What do you got to do all that for? Like, you got the worm. That's all you got to do. Like, just get beat for 10 minutes. And then, not even that. His matches never lasted that long after that. It was get beat up for 5 to 6 minutes. And then you're going to hit that bulldog and hit the worm. Hoo. And that's it. But sometimes I go back and I'll find myself watching like old Scott Taylor stuff from like 98 pre Too Cool getting over. That guy is a great wrestler. And I think that's why he had such competency as a coach and why so many people spoke so highly of him as a coach, because he does like understand his way around that ring. Totally. That's like when we talk criminally underrated, that's somebody I can put in that category.
I have somebody on the same along those same lines, along that same time frame. D'Lo Brown. I think a lot of people talk about D'Lo, but they don't really talk about D'Lo. And sometimes when I watch old WWF shows, I'm like, damn, D'Lo was a great wrestler. I like his gear, his gimmick, everything about him was great. And then now he's, became a behind the scenes guy, did a lot for Impact Wrestling, still does a lot for pro wrestling. And it's just a really good dude, man. D'Lo is definitely on there for me.
He gave us one of the best moments from what do you call it, the Fox specials, with him looking at the
Oh
the New
yeah,
Jack stuff on his laptop.
laptop.
One of the greatest moments in wrestling history. I think currently Drew Gulak, man. I think Drew Gulak is
Gulak.
insanely underrated. I think he's a very good wrestler. I think he can do all of the character stuff. He's one of those guys that I feel like people make technical wrestlers into boring guys, and he's a very good technical wrestler. But at the same time, he can do all of the character stuff that WWE claims they want, but they still don't use him. It's weird. And I feel like for a long time, he was the highlight of 205 Live. He was the best character on that show, even during the Enzo era. So, yeah, I think it's Drew Gulak.
Hey, we got this one from Young Boy that I want to read because I apparently brought some information to people that they weren't aware of.
Young blood.
And I'm sorry about this.
Young blood.
I apologize, Cody, for bringing this to light. But Young Boy says, well, I mentioned on After the Week that Cody is pretty over on Black Twitter. Shout out to Black Twitter. But can you elaborate more on this whole Cody using a secret Trump Twitter account? Because I did bring that up. Okay. Cody had an account. The handle was Prince CGR, which stood for Cody Garrett Reynolds. And it was Prince CGR, and that was his. But like that was an account he was using, while he was Stardust. So the main account he uses now is his old Stardust account. But while he was Stardust and playing this Stardust character, he kept the Prince CGR account and only had like 1,000 followers. But he kept the Prince CGR account as like okay, I want to be able to talk outside of character, talk outside of WWE, and I'm going to use this Prince CGR account. And if people remember some of the stuff he posted on that account, he definitely, and again, this is 2015, 2016, he talked about Trump being the next president, Trump being his guy, talking about his MAGA hat. These were things he posted on the account. I'm not even saying this to like slander Cody. I actually like Cody. I've been posting very positively about Cody. This is just like kind of matter of fact stuff that at the time these were things Cody posted. And I saw somebody respond, well, he's married to Brandy Rhodes. How could he be? Brandy Rhodes also did a pro-Trump podcast in 2016. These aren't things that I think, but again, I know this is like shocking information to people, but this is pretty common in professional wrestling. Like the best thing a professional wrestler can do politically is just like keep their mouth shut, because at this stage, that's just a lot of stuff that is pretty common in the locker rooms, and which is why it weirds me out when people pick and choose who they want to hold political beliefs against, because most of your favorites have them and have espoused them. Like, people forget Paul Heyman was like a huge like right-wing guy for a long time and used to use his social media accounts to basically be like,
just picked up Fox guys, like a few months ago. Like,
right,
just mentioned
but like,
Fox guys on
I
TV.
know, like people forget that because in the modern era, it's like, okay, just keep your political beliefs quiet. But like, same with like Shawn Michaels was at the Republican National Convention. Like, these are your guys, which is why I don't think you can pick and choose who you like in wrestling based on political views, because
You can't like nobody.
because you're gonna find that. Well, yeah, you're gonna find that there's a lot of guys you just don't like.
Well, I mean,
I mean, if you're doing that, you have like to not support entire companies if that's what you're gonna
Yes.
do.
well, that's also what have I told you guys? Every time I get a chance on this podcast, you don't really know these people, man.
Exactly.
And it is what it is. Like, I try very hard not to pay attention to any of their personal stuff and just pay attention to just wrestling stuff, just character stuff.
Only time we do pay attention is when they bring that shit to the light and they're out on the timeline or they're being wild. Then it's like, all right. But,
Yeah, and I think I think a lot of guys are
like,
like smart enough to just like keep it off the timeline now, and I think Cody is smart enough now, because the problem was the issue with that Prince CGR account. If I remember what happened with that, was that he abandoned that account when he left WWE, and WWE handed him the keys to his Stardust account. He turned that into the Cody Rhodes account. He's Cody Rhodes going forward. He's had control of that account. But he left the Prince CGR account up and figured, I think he just forgot about it. I think he just walked away from it. And then somebody called him out on Twitter back in 2020 as a Trump supporter. And he was like, I'm not a Trump supporter. And they were like, really? Explain this. And like started showing him screenshots of all his tweets. And then
not that this you.
Yeah, got his ass, got him good. What about this?
yeah, it was because they called him a Trump supporter, and he's like, I'm not a political guy. I just believe in America, blah, blah, blah. And people were like, really? They're like, explain these tweets. And so people threw all these screenshots at him. And so he then went and deleted the Prince CGR account. So that account is gone, which he should have done in the first place.
Yeah.
Because he's tried to kind of rebrand himself.
We're talking about first place. He probably shouldn't have never.
I know. And so that was back in 2016. Like I said, there was about 20.
You know what? Sami Zayn should win at WrestleMania. My mind on this shit. Cody Rhodes, you're out of here, buddy.
Oh man.
So again, that was really what the big thing was. And so yeah, you could do some searching up on that account. You'll find the screenshots do exist of the Prince CGR account.
Let's not talk about AEW guys who are on that side. Let's move on.
No, I mean, I said, it exists. Like that's the thing is.
I'm saying, let's move on.
And like
all this happened while Cody was in AEW. The 2020 thing I'm talking about, that was AEW.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I like Cody. So this isn't slander Cody, but yikes. Oof. But yeah, I like Cody. I thought he looked great in the Rumble, and I was saying afterwards, watching him in the press conference, this guy is very good at all of the brand ambassador stuff. He's great at answering questions. He comes off polished. He comes off genuine. I've enjoyed everything he's done since he's gotten back to WWE. I don't think he's really missed since he's left AEW.
Yeah. All right. Like I said, I wanted to bring that up just because somebody asked me because we talked about it on After the Week, and apparently I forget sometimes that like there's wrestling Twitter is burned up here, and so there's a lot of stuff that I'll just like say that I think people are aware of, and then
let this be a lesson from anybody that sees this and anybody that is seeing this Cody Rhodes thing, wrestlers, fans included. Twitter is always a bad idea.
I knew where this was going.
But again, I say more than anything else, if you keep it about what's happening on the screen, you'll be a lot happier.
Yeah,
because a lot of people don't agree with your views, and that's something that I've had to kind of reconcile in my mind.
Be careful with these koofies, bro. Stop putting koofies on white
that
people.
That is the thing, though.
Because you don't know these people. You don't know what they were believing. And so I thought it was hilarious that people were surprised by some of those Orton tweets. Like, are you, though? Are you?
I don't know why anybody was surprised by that. When, like, again, I like Orton as a person. That's a guy who used to retweet Ben Shapiro on the regular. Like, it's only in recent years that wrestlers have been kind of told by their companies, like, hey, it's going to hurt the company to tweet one way or the other. Like, just kind of don't. And you'll probably be better off. And then there were some guys who just, like, didn't. Like Gunner, right? Like, Gunner was just like, now I'm making my whole personality. And you see where that gets you. Like,
exactly. Don't do it.
Get you booked by XPW. If you do it, there's somebody will take you though. Then it never fails. Somebody will still be like, all right, yeah. I mean, because there's a lot of people that are like that. So
yeah. Orion
Rumble.
666 says ringside news. Homer burning bridge gif. Bye bye. I mean, look,
no. Absolutely. They are not getting any talk on this podcast.
We're moving on.
We're not doing any ringside news talk on this podcast.
Moving forward.
No.
Absolutely not.
Mr. CJ Lilly says, with the 20-year anniversary of Evolution's debut this past week, what's your opinion on Evolution, their legacy, and your memories of the faction back then? Also, Alexa and Bray rule. I'd take $1 million a match.
$1 million?
Okay. Well, Evolution.
I
so my opinion,
Triple H so much by this time that I don't like Evolution. When people are talking about Evolution, I'm like, by the time Evolution hit, Triple H was on my #1 most hated wrestler list. So none of it ever really hit for me if I'm keeping it a stack.
Yeah, like honestly, Evolution is a mystery. It's
Oh,
full of change
God.
that no
Get
one
him
sees.
outta here. Nuh-uh.
Hawk makes a fool of
Nope.
history. Yesterday is all I know. And
Somebody cut his mic, please.
No, seriously.
Evolution!
The Evolution to me, I think, is one of the most successful factions of all time.
Yes.
There's like no denying that. When you think about a faction who had a mission statement, and by the end of it, the mission was accomplished. When they said we are wrestling's past, present, and future, and the future actually happened. Like you had Randy Orton, who was the diamond. The coal that'll be the diamond that gets squeezed into that. Like remember that. And Randy Orton is now a 14-time champion. You've got Batista, who
It's a big star.
is one of the biggest stars in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah, that probably saved Ric Flair's life.
Definitely.
It did
Like,
everything it was supposed to do.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah, I think that Evolution was a faction that went up against one of the weakest Raw rosters of all time.
Yeah.
And I think that in that sense, Evolution just steamrolled everybody.
Right.
To the point of where, and I think this is where we could tie this back to the Bloodline, that people want to see the Bloodline beaten from within because Evolution kind of created that idea. That Evolution steamrolled over Raw so badly that the only thing that could beat Evolution was Evolution. Evolution was beaten by Batista. He ended up being the guy who took the faction down. It could only be beaten from within. But that's because nobody on Raw could do it. And so when I think about the Bloodline, and I think people see it along those same lines of this is a story that's been so strong it can only end from within. I disagree. I think that they have factors outside that can beat the Bloodline. I actually don't want to see the Bloodline beaten from within. I don't want to see Jey Uso. I keep seeing that a lot of Jey Uso has to be the guy to finally take this down. No, because then at that point, you basically let this group steamroll over the entire company. And then on top of that, the only way they could be beaten was from somebody in the group. I don't like that. I think they need to be beaten as a whole.
Yeah. I think there are layers. I think that the person that beats Roman for the titles should be somebody outside of the group. But
Yes.
I do think there's still stories to tell about the bloodline imploding and all of Roman's manipulations coming back to bite him in the ass.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that you can get there and you can do Roman and Jey. I don't want to see Roman and Jey for the title. Again, we saw that, and I think I don't want to see Jey be the guy to beat Roman. No. That's me personally. But yeah, as far as Evolution is concerned, I think that history remembers them strongly because they steamrolled over Raw the way they did.
Right.
And it helped that Raw didn't really have anybody that... I mean, there were guys that were hurt by that, right? I think that you look at like Babyface Edge was screwed. Babyface Edge was toast by the time he was done with Evolution. Remember, Edge comes out on the mic. He's like, "I'm going to destroy Evolution one by one." By the end of that feud, their crowd was booing Edge and cheering Randy Orton. So
Edge was the elite hunter before Frank Kazarian existed.
He was. Edge was. He was like, I'm going to systematically beat everybody in Evolution, and he's going to work his way up to Triple H. And by the time he got to Orton, fans were booing Edge, and they're like, all right, let's not do this anymore.
I get it now. He just brought it back. Now he brought it full circle, so he can make everybody in Judgment Day look like losers.
It's working too. Separia.
Let's see. So 3R Show says Waller is baller. Hashtag add new.
I mean, I could see it maybe.
What's that about?
We got a pay-per-view tonight.
It was a big show tonight. Yeah.
Vengeance Day.
Yeah. NXT Vengeance.
Yeah.
They're on the road.
And Waller versus what's his name? Braun is the main event.
Not what's his name.
That's not a good
What's
time.
his name? Look, Braun goes. The
He's
problem with Braun
his name when he goes to the main
he
roster,
is
right?
because Braun Breaker is like honestly the fifth Braun I think of when Braun comes to mind. Like you say Braun and I think LeBron, right? That's the first one that comes to mind. And then I'm like Brawny, and then I'm like Braun Strowman, and so like
he's down on the list, yeah.
yeah, he's pretty down on the list of Brauns. So sorry, Braun Breaker. I think he does. I think he does need a new name, though. I think
Yeah,
that
totally.
He does.
I mean,
Come
there's
on,
Braun
get the
Strowman at
Steiner.
minimum.
Get the Steiner
Yeah.
on there, man. Stop it.
I think Rex Steiner was it. That was easy.
That's a great name. I don't
Rex
understand
Steiner,
why
man.
he's
Come on,
like
this
trying to run
Brian
away
Breaker
from it.
thing ain't hitting.
Eloquent says Bray peaked in Wyatt family. Everything else sucks.
I disagree.
Yeah, I disagree too because he ain't never picked.
D Skills H Town says Bray would have had would have been golden in the cinematic match era. I mean, that's where he was, and I also disagree. Mrs. Time to Shine, maybe. Seth is that underappreciated hard worker in the office.
But Seth is pretty appreciated, though. I think not by his own management.
I don't think he's appreciated by them. I think, and actually, I think he's a little underappreciated by the fan base as well. Because it took a while for people to come along and go, no, this is working. The new gimmick is working.
Yeah, it did.
All right, let's talk about the Rumble and the fallout of the Rumble. So the Rumble itself, I mean, you've kind of heard all of that talked about ad nauseum. We don't have to go over the Rumble as a whole, but the victory was Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes comes in number 30, and he faces kind of a field that's still pretty populated. I kind of hate the idea of somebody coming in at number 30 and going, I beat 29 other men.
Yeah.
You beat like 10 others. But but it's okay. He was number 30.
Yeah, the men's one was kind of a run of the numbers thing, like you were saying with Washington. It was just like, let's get this, like Cody victory, let's get to it.
It was good. I just felt it didn't take any chances. It was a fairly standard Rumble.
Exactly.
I don't think it took any chances, and there weren't any real great surprises other than Logan Paul. But I think we'd be remiss to ignore the night that Gunther had. I felt like Gunther was amazing. I feel like Gunther was the MVP of the men's Rumble. There was no point in this Rumble where he wasn't present. I
disagree with that, and that's an issue I had with it. But go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, I felt like there wasn't a point where he didn't feel like a threat. Like, I felt like he always felt like a threat in this Rumble, like all the way down to the last minute. And I thought that this is the way, if you're going to make somebody IC champion and make them feel like the next up-and-coming guy, I felt like he felt like that in a Rumble.
I thought that I agree that he looked the best he's looked in the Rumble. I said on the Fightful post show, though, that when he had that stare down with Brock, this was the first time I was like, I think Brock's actually kind of making Gunther look a little not all there. I thought that I was like, you know what? Walter would have looked a lot more intimidating against Brock, but I'm like, you know what? Fit and lean Gunther actually just looks like a dude up against Brock. But other than that,
but see, I didn't even see it that way because Gunther has always talked about how much he appreciates Brock, and I felt like that moment was more of those moments where I was happy for him in that moment that he was getting a stare down with a guy that he really idolizes.
I just thought it was like, because I think what they were trying to go for was like, two beasts, two tough guys coming face to face. But I thought that Gunther does not look as physically impressive as Brock, and so I thought
who does other than like Bobby Lashley?
Well, yeah. So that said, though, I think
Bobby had a great moment as well.
Yeah,
but
he did.
Don't want to jump over. He had a great moment.
Because I think to your point, my issue, and I had the same issue with Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, and it's one of my least favorite Rumble tropes. Because I mean, they've still never done it as bad as they did it in 2006, where Rey Mysterio was number 2 and then spent 90 minutes in the corner of that match, or 60 minutes in the corner, basically just hiding out. I felt like there were a couple of instances where I forgot that Gunther was there. And I think that that's one of those things that that's not to say, obviously, working 60 minutes is tough. And so I'm not saying that he needed to be active that whole time. But I think they probably could have managed him just a little bit better. I feel like he was there in the beginning. He had the Brock spot. He had the spot with Sheamus and Drew McIntyre, and then the ending. But I feel like he disappeared every other time. It was when they had a plan for him, he was there, and when they didn't have a plan for him, he just kind of hid out. And
I don't agree. I feel like he was pretty present.
And I guess that was just how I felt throughout the match. There were a couple of times where I'm like, oh yeah, Gunther's still here, because I would just see him on the ground. And I had that same problem with Liv in Rhea, where there were multiple instances where things are happening in the match and they're just kind of like doing their thing elsewhere. But that kind of goes with the idea of like, I had that problem with War Games, where War Games is so like produced that if they don't have something planned for certain people, they're just kind of like off in the corner waiting until it's the plan for their spot. I think that's just the way WWE operates. And that was probably why.
Speaking of the way the WWE operates, here I go. Here he goes. I hate how everything seems so nothing's natural anymore. Like it's like they told us all week that Rey Mysterio had that number because they knew that someone was gonna beat it, but it didn't feel like natural. It's like, okay, here's another accolade. Like, okay, this time we're gonna make an emphasis to do this, and nothing ever feels like naturally done. It just feels like numbers and
everything has to be a moment. And
and it doesn't.
I feel like that's how they do things, and I feel like you have to.
I just got to accept it.
You just have to accept that that's how WWE produces their shows. But yeah, I feel like Gunther was great. I feel like there were other things that I'm forgetting. I completely forgot about the Ray thing that I thought that was handled weird. As well as they could. Now knowing that he was injured, but that was odd. Interesting. But I thought that they booked the last 4 minutes in the Rumble.
The finishing stretch.
Really so well. I thought all of the stuff that they did there, the little bits of storytelling they did there were really good. I think Cody and Rollins having to put their differences aside to realize Gunther was the guy to get out because he had been dominant the entire time. Like, I don't like you, but let's get him out first. I thought that was good. Yeah. And you also could play on the fact that Cody did make fun of his name change.
I know, right? I was like, oh my God, it's Cody versus Gunnar McGill,
Yeah, so I thought all of that stuff was great, and I thought the way that Logan Paul slunk in and narrowly took Cody's moment, well, not Cody, Seth's moment away from Cody, because it's like, man, he's beat this guy 3 times, and he was just like, I finally got him, finally double underhooked him, and here comes Logan Paul to mess it all up. And I thought that was really good because we all knew that Seth was not winning. But this was a good way to get him away from Cody and move him into another feud. And I thought the way that they handled Gunther and Cody along the way, having a guy that chops people in the chest to be in the ring with a guy that just came back from this nasty looking pec injury. I thought it was all great. I thought the storytelling
I don't want to
was
see
great.
Cody hit another pedigree though. He doesn't do it well. Okay. And I think that I thought that the pedigree was underdone in the Hell in a Cell because of his pec injury. That's fine. But that's him doing that's just how he hits it and it stinks. Don't do another pedigree. It was we built up to that because of literally that was something that was building from AEW into WWE. Literally Cody using the shovel, all of that stuff. But
yeah, I feel like the moment worked though, because I feel like this for the same reason that the moment worked in the Hell in a Cell match, because they built up to him doing it, and so the build up of Rollins and Cody both hitting Gunther with pedigrees, I thought was a good moment. I didn't have many real complaints about the bottom half of the Rumble. There were other things in it that I didn't think worked, but I thought that they stuck the landing well. I thought Cody coming out with the most grandiose entrance ever in a Royal Rumble match was such a Cody thing to do. And I was just
it could only happen at number 32, right? Because you're not going to get that in the middle of the match, and then by the time he reaches the ring, the next person has to come out.
Yeah, of course. And so when he came out and he had the pyro and the smoke machine and everything, and I was like, if you don't think this guy's winning, you're delusional.
Come on.
He's winning this match. It's very clear.
And I think they made the right choice with Cody. Everything was perfect. It had to be 30 because of the entrance, and he had to win this because that's where the story has been going.
And I think Cody was the right choice for a number of reasons. Not just because he's made it clear he wants to be champion, but he feels like a guy that could carry the torch after Roman is gone. He feels like the guy that can be the face of the company. As much as I like Sami and as much as I want Sami to get a big title win, he doesn't feel like the guy. He doesn't feel like a top guy. And that's not a knock to him. It just, I feel like Cody feels like the guy, not just in ring, like I said, in the press conferences.
Nobody do it like Cody,
He,
bro.
he looks like a guy that you can send to do those mainstream appearances like Fallon and stuff, and he'd knock it out the park. And
Nobody was thinking about that soda before on that press
This
conference
is what I'm
stage.
saying.
Cody
He's
was
just,
like, I
he's
have
just
to
good
do
at
an
this
ad.
stuff, man. He's just good
this
at
is
it.
this is why I want to see Roman's reign ended from outside of the bloodline, because I see a lot of tweets here, not tweets, but a lot of comments here. People talking about how over Sami is. I'm not disagreeing with that. That pop he got last night when he showed up was massive.
Yeah, crazy.
But I think the issue, and again, this is coming from somebody who has watched a lot of Sami Zayn's career. I love Sami Zayn. And I'm not talking about just Sami Zayn. I'm talking about El Generico. Like, I have watched this guy's career. So I don't want you to think that I'm just taking the corporate stance on this. But I think there is a difference between Sami being over in this story and Sami being over in general. And I think it's very clear that he's over in this story. But when the story is finished, do you still have it? And I think that's the important distinction, because Sami got over in this story. He got over, they brought him in here. People are like, oh, this is a really silly thing that they're doing with Sami. And then it was like, oh, this is starting to catch on. Oh, okay, this is really cool. Cody was over before the story. Cody's story involved the WWE Championship the second he came back. He has been over outside of the story. He still exists outside of the story. So I think that, to me, is still the path to go. I think you still have to go with somebody who's over outside of the story, so that when you bring him into the story, you have an exit strategy out of it, that he can win and move on and defend the title against others, that doesn't involve the bloodline, and he can still exist as Cody Rhodes. Whereas I think what people are asking for with Sami is a satisfying conclusion to that story. And it's a cool thing, but what do you have with Sami afterward?
Yeah, here's my thing with Sami, and I don't disagree. He is extremely over. But at the moment, Sami still feels like a mid-card guy. He doesn't feel like a guy that you make champion yet. And again, that's not to say that he can be a champion. I think that he can. I've wanted him to be champion since he's come to the main roster. But at this very moment, if you're asking me, of those two guys, who do I think could take that torch and run with it and be the face of the company when Roman is not on TV? It feels like Cody. It doesn't feel like Sami. And like I said, that's not a knock at Sami. It just feels like it's Cody's time. And I think Sami, the other big difference is Sami has always been a moments guy with WWE. Even if you look at his NXT title win was to get him that moment and get him this big underdog thing. But what happened after that? He immediately lost. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there is a time where you can give Sami a short reign and do something interesting with that, but I don't think you should follow up an 800-day reign with Roman with a short-lived reign. I don't think you should do that.
No, it has to be the passing of the torch.
Cody, yeah.
Let's see. Dre7 says, I love Cody, but WWE has basically turned me against him, with Gunther going from one and losing to Cody in the Sami situation. I feel like they should have booked Cody to win from earlier on. I mean, I think he probably could have come in earlier. I think really it was just the entrance. But other than that, I think that because coming in from 30 had always been treated as kind of like a heel thing till Taker actually did it. Mm-hmm. Because it was like a hey, I get the number 30 spot. Like, remember X-Pac getting the number 30 spot, and that was supposed to be him protecting Hunter. Mm-hmm. Because Hunter's the champ, so I'm going to come in at number 30 and win it for you, Hunter, so that way, it's us at WrestleMania and we keep The Rock away. That was the whole story there. Usually it has been kind of a heel thing, and I can see that. But also, I don't think that, like I just saw somebody say in the chat, shout out KMN, saying, why are people trying to will Cody Backlash into existence?
It does feel like that's happening. Like, I do feel like I said, I get that people like Sami, but I do feel like this is a very internet bubble thing. I feel like this is a very internet wrestling fan thing, because when you look at what Cody is, the reaction he's getting at live shows, it's not that. I mean, we sit on this show all the time and talk about how WWE shows just don't have the reactions anymore. It's quiet at a lot of these shows. this Raw was the first time in a long time where I felt like the crowd was into the show, and the difference was that Cody was there.
There were still moments on that show where they weren't, but not for Code, man.
Not during Cody's segment. During that Cody segment, they were loud. During the match, they were loud. I think the people that are trying to question how over Cody is, they're not really paying attention, man. This guy's clearly over.
And like he's got the kids, like it's there. Mrs. CJ Lilly says, "Don't worry, guys. This is Alexa's last year in wrestling. She'll be in Hollywood soon, and you'll force Bray out again when you asked for him back, Fickle." I ain't asked for him back.
I wouldn't say all of that. Let's get into it. So, are we done with Rumble talk? Can we get into this pitch black match?
Sure.
Sure. Let's get into it. I don't dislike Bray. Like, these two guys, they dislike Bray. So don't make that a Grapsody thing. I don't dislike Bray. I've made it very clear that I like Bray and I wanted him back. I think the problem with the pitch black match is that for his first match back, and you build up all this anticipation, the guy's been back since October, and for his first match to be this, not good sign, buddy. It's not good. I feel like, and not just that, for this to be LA Knight's first feud with this character on the main roster, you didn't really give him a chance, I feel like, to build himself up yet before he took a big loss. And so now, after this match, where do you go with LA Knight? And I don't even feel like the match was terrible. The match itself was fine. It was short. It moved right along. But boy, the aftermath of this match, it was awful. And I will give it credit for this. It gave me the biggest laugh of the night. I laughed hysterically at this missed elbow drop. And not just at the miss of it, but he missed this elbow drop by like a mile. And then the pyro goes off afterwards. I was in tears.
Up like I'm him. Yeah.
I was in tears laughing at this. It was hilarious. But yeah, I think people that are like, this is the confirmation, Bray isn't it, he'll never be it. I just don't agree with that. I think that Bray, for as much as some people won't like Bray, I think the concept of this match was fine. I thought some of the visuals of the match were good. I definitely laughed at it. He looks like one of the gang members from Batman Forever with the glow in the dark. And like I said, I think only Bray could pull that off. But the other thing is the pitch black concept wasn't his idea. It's a very corporate idea. It's pitched by whatever sponsorship. Now we're getting
the Cinnamon Toast
I can't wait to see what the Cinnamon Toast Crunch sponsorship is going to be.
Oh my God. Yeah, so I feel like
the taste you can see. Oh, they got
please no. But even if you look at this side of sponsorship matches, this isn't the worst sponsorship match to me. I feel like the zombie match is worse. I feel like the zombie match is much worse.
Definitely. Yeah. That was bad.
That's at least Thunderdome era, and like I can at least wipe that from my mental existence.
That match was bad though, and not to say that this match was great. Of course, I'm not shooting them bail on this because it's still one of these dumb, corporate synergy things. But like I said, I wasn't sitting at home like, oh, I hate Bray forever for this. Like, it wasn't good, but like I said, it was a good moment of wrestle crap because. Look, as much as we've laughed at the Shockmaster thing for decades now, this is going to be another one of those things. This is one of those. Where we're going to laugh at it for a good amount of time. Just like that dud at the end of the exploding barbed wire death match. Got a good laugh out of it, too. This was just as funny.
That was the first podcast Phil and I did together, by the way, was reviewing that. We had to review the Revolution 2021.
Great match, but boy, that ending.
Bad.
Wah, 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 wah. Let's see. Kenneth Love says the NWO B theme stuck in my head since Wednesday.
Love it. Great times.
If you never thought about Scott Norton before this past Wednesday, you definitely have been since.
Bringing him back.
That was Thursday. We did that Thursday. Yeah. JJ Montgomery says, I really don't get this Cody hate from a lot of creators and fans. I love the Sami angle, but this story killing before it starts has to stop.
Yeah, I think people gotta. I think the other part is that people are excited about the Sami stuff now, but you're supposed to be because that's for the next pay-per-view.
That's how it works.
We haven't gotten a confrontation between Cody and Roman. They haven't even been on the same show yet. They haven't been in the same ring yet. And so I feel like we got to get there before people are like, oh, it's not going to work. Like, you don't know that it's not going to work. We haven't seen them cut a promo together yet. If you think those promos are not going to be good, boy, let me tell you.
They're going to slap.
Cody coming out and doing the emotional stuff and Roman getting his digs in at the competition while trying to build him up. It's going to be good.
I do want to, watching SmackDown last night, give it up to Roman Reigns for having one of the best outs of the what chant that I've seen in a while. He changed his cadence on how he was talking so people couldn't do it. I was amazed. That was one of the best performances I've seen in a long time because I hate the what chants. I'm like, how's he going to get out of this? And he got out of this. Shout out to Roman Reigns, a true professional.
Anime Otaku says, fun fact since it came up, Scream's working title was Scary Movie. I did know that. And I'm looking forward to Scream 6, by the way. I'm actually really looking forward to Scream 6.
I don't think that I've seen Scream 5 yet.
Really? That's like, honestly, one of the best ones of the series. I think that they knocked that out of the park. And I love the Scream series. I'm actually like, but Darren Reynolds got me into the Scream series, and no, they're great movies.
It's good. It's good lore. Are you saying you like the lore of the Scream movies?
I do, actually. Because it's in a Scream movie,
exactly.
And not in professional wrestling.
Where Bray Wyatt should be, bro. Get over there. Have fun over there.
Steph, the writer, says, why has WWE watered down all its themes? It took some of the fun out of the Rumble. Hey, you just kind of have to accept.
You know what? In the Women's Rumble, I didn't know half of the themes, and it took away a lot.
There were a lot of bad themes. I mean, that was the same thing I thought last year at the Rumble, that this just reminded me how abysmal WWE's music is at the moment. Like, a lot of the things when people were coming out, I was like, this is just not a good theme. And as much as I enjoyed Asuka coming back, I was like, oh no, they took her
remixed her theme. Yeah.
I mean, look, I am a little more forgiving to Def Rebel in that I think that when Def Rebel gets to take their time on a theme, I think they get to collaborate with the wrestler. They've had stuff that delivers. Like, I think Roman's theme is one of those ones that I wasn't a believer in Roman's theme till I heard it in an arena, and that bass with it,
kind of just like a stock ass beat though. Like
but man, does it hit! Like, I didn't realize how much the bass of that song hits until I was in an arena and I was like feeling it in my chest, and I'm like, okay, I get it. And now
CFO would have cooked something crazy for the guy.
Yeah, I don't think Def Rebel did the Rollins theme, did they? I think somebody else did that one.
I think I was Def Rebel.
Okay, I like that one.
But again, that was well, because what is that name of that theme? The Visionary. Def Rebel did that one.
Which that one slaps.
Yeah,
but again, they took their time on that. They got to debut that one at WrestleMania. This wasn't one of those, hey, we got to get rid of a CFO's theme really quick, whip something up this afternoon. Like, they took their time with that one, and he got a big WrestleMania presentation with it. You can tell the difference when they get to really give their time to things.
Right.
Let's see. Cruncher X says, as someone who only likes the Zack Snyder DC movies, you've been a tough follow the last week on Twitter, Phil, but I'm still here.
I feel sorry for you for enjoying Zack Snyder DC movies.
Right out there with it, huh?
Feel very bad for you. I'm a tough follow. Fam, did you watch Justice League? That was a tough follow. What the fuck?
Look, hold on. First off, Phil, let me just say, Zack Snyder makes excellent trailers. Now the movies themselves, but he makes an A+ trailer. He makes you come out of a trailer going, yep, I want to see that movie. Does the movie ever deliver? Like once. But but man, does that guy make an A+ trailer. If you only know Man of Steel from trailers, if you only knew Batman vs Superman from trailers, if you only knew Justice League from trailers, that man, like, honestly, what was the one owl movie he did, The Legends of the Guardians, where it was literally owls, were your main characters? I came out of that trailer going, hey, I want to see an owl action movie. This looks good. And that movie was trash. But I said,
hey, man, and of course I'm just joking. If you enjoy Zack Snyder movies, that's your taste. But I don't think that most of those movies were good. I hated Batman versus Superman. I thought it was awful.
Man. I saw that right before because that came out the weekend before WrestleMania 32. So, and I hated WrestleMania 32. So, like, it was just a twofold, like, bad week for me in terms of going to the movies and seeing Batman vs Superman. Then later that day, I boarded a plane and went to Dallas, and then I hated WrestleMania 32. And I'm like, man, I can't believe I have sat in a place and having to watch shit I hated all week this week.
Yeah, I don't know. But hey, I'm excited for what they're possibly going to do. You're giving us finally the Booster Gold stuff that we've been asking for years. No, I'm excited.
No, I'm looking forward to Brave and the Bold and Green Lanterns. Like, are you kidding me?
I'm excited to see what they do.
They said it's going to be a Jon Stewart, Hal Jordan buddy cop. Like, yes, give me.
Good.
That sounds great.
Yeah, to me, Damian Wayne is one of the best Robins there is. So I'm excited to see him in live action.
Yeah, that's going to be cool. Let's see. CBD's Nut says, lived in ATX for 2 years, went through 2 natural disasters. I'm bringing my butt back to Chicago at the end of the month.
Welcome back to the cold soon.
Yes. Well, at least the place that can handle the cold. Lux Pro Music says, hey, Will, have you considered sending Cody Rhodes to your son's school? He solved racism before. He can do it again.
Yikes.
Lux Pro says, melanin in my
Oh,
soul.
no.
Thank you, God, for Cody Rhodes. Do it all for Martin Luther King. That's actually pretty good.
Stop.
Black History Month, fellas.
Stop it. Cody is going to fuck us up in the podcast.
Do it all for Martin Luther King's the craziest shit I've heard.
Cody is going to see us out in the wild one day like, yo, it's you guys.
Straight up. Yeah, no, for real. And I'm going to understand.
Wonga says, good day, fellas. Let's see. New Japan Tamashii had their second Sydney show here last night. Had Eagles, Fale, Kyle Fletcher, and Hinare there. Also met Paul Rudd and Jonathan Majors at the Ant-Man 3 premiere the day before.
Wow.
Nice. Looking forward to
Oh, wow.
it.
See, I didn't finish reading that. I was like, did you like just meet some dude named Paul Rudd, or did you actually meet Paul Rudd? But clearly he met Paul Rudd. That's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I just saw the comment. From what it sounds like, that Batgirl movie was really bad. I don't think they wanted to see the light of day because they think it was going to get panned.
They legit said like it was unreleasable.
Yeah. Yeah. So that doesn't strike me as a good sign.
That's not a good sign.
I don't think that they're keeping Batgirl and keeping Ezra Miller. I think they're just trying to get through the promotion for this Flash movie and get it out there in the theaters. And Ezra Miller is probably going to get punted after that.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
Because you've never seen, like, when movies get in promotional mode and press junket mode and all that stuff, you never see anybody know, and they know how, studios know how bad a movie is when they're sitting on it. But again, you can't do anything with that until the movie is out.
Right.
Like, you have to pretend like, yeah, we're releasing it. Yeah,
everybody should check it out.
Yeah, come check this movie out. It's going to be great.
Even though it's not.
Yeah.
So I think they're trying to. You had to make a choice here. Like, can we take that loss of a few million with this Batgirl movie? Yeah, but no, we put, what was it, like 2 million or some crazy number into this Flash movie. This Flash movie is happening, bro. Sorry. Yeah. And
they'll even like pick and choose the critics stuff too. It'll be like, critics say this is ... a great movie, and then you like go open the article and it says this movie is awful. You need to go see a great movie.
I feel like
crazy.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think Ezra just has them in a bad spot where they spent a lot of money on this movie, so they're just gung ho to make it happen for now, and then they'll have to deal with the actual debacle afterwards.
And then they said that the Flash movie was some heat too. Like they did the exact opposite. They were like, "No, you should watch the Flash movie, but that Batgirl shit, don't ask about it anymore."
Yeah. Jake Salazar says, nah, Phil, Seth is at this point in his career where he is now Dolph Ziggler.
Whoa.
He's a good,
Oh no, you're capping.
He's a good hand to put over guys they want. I think that's extreme right now.
Calling Seth a good hand is crazy. Get it now. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Shucky Ducky says, Cody relinquishes one belt to provide opportunity.
I hope not. I would hate that. I seriously, I like if he comes out and does the emotional, I just want to be WWE champion all this time and vacates the Universal title, I would hate that.
Yeah,
that's awful too. Like honestly, I think if you have to have two belts, you kind of have to do what you did the last 2 times. Just create a new one. You merge these. Like you have no out of this. And because and I say that the last 2 times because they merged the world, the WCW and the WWF title, and then they created the world heavyweight because they needed a second one. Then they merged the world heavyweight and the WWE title, and then they created the Universal because you merge these. Like you don't have an out because there is no good way to have a champion lose a belt or give up a belt without making it look lesser or diminishing the reign that they have.
But this is why I'm worried about putting both titles on him, because you're going to have to make a decision soon. I just think it's a bad idea.
Merge him into one belt, have him come out with the eagle the way he wants to, and then don't have another world champion.
But see, I feel like if they do merge the titles, they're just going to establish another belt anyway. Because we already know both the networks want 2 titles. So I feel like it's inevitable. I feel like if
the networks want 2 titles? Because they don't have them now. And they're having the best ratings they've had.
Because they're in a bind. But we've seen the report more than once that networks want 2 titles. But I don't know, man. Like, I feel like if it was just about merging the titles, they would have did that by now with Roman. I feel like they're keeping those titles separate as separate, tangible things because they're eventually going to split them.
I also think it's a good look for Roman, though. Like, it's a part of his ensemble. Like, literally, they're advertising in WWE 2K23. Look, you can have Roman have 2 belts, and like he comes out and he raises them both
It is
up.
a good visual.
And the Jimmy Fallon thing, he was like, "I told you last time you said you were going to have 2 belts, and now you have 2 belts." Like, it's all about the 2 belts thing. Yeah.
Like, it's a visual.
It is a visual thing, but I'm telling you, there will be 2 titles in that company again. They can't help themselves. Watch.
Let's see. Aaron Ruiz says, the most interesting Bray has gotten is with Alexa being the Silver Surfer. It was an opportunity to explore multiple wrestlers and have the dynamic of Destroyer of World with his Herald. Tina Keys.
That's an interesting comparison. I didn't even think about that.
All right. Tina Key says, good morning, fellas. Looking forward to see how the rest of WrestleMania shapes up this year with the 2 matches announced so far. See you in LA, sending hugs. I mentioned this week, I got to miss WrestleMania. I will be in town for a lot of the other stuff, but my daughter has her big Addams Family play on the Saturday of WrestleMania Night 1, the day I can't miss that. She has been preparing for this for
you had to leave
months.
on Saturday last year too, huh?
And this year she's got her big play. She has a singing role in this Addams Family musical.
Love it.
And I'm not missing that for WrestleMania. So I will be flying back home and making sure I catch my daughter's play.
Sweet.
So I will be in LA. I will not be at WrestleMania. I can't. Let's see. Van Twinblade says, not against Cody, just want Sami to get that belt. Hey, and you know what? Actually, back on the the play thing. This is the second time this has happened, by the way. That my daughter had a play in 2019, and I actually had to miss it for WrestleMania. But the way that was able to be made up was that I emailed the teacher for all of that, and I told her the situation that I didn't want to miss my daughter's play, and she let me watch the dress rehearsal. I got to come up, and they put one seat just for me there, and I got to sit there and watch the entire dress rehearsal for the play. And
that's why you're industry list #1, man.
And then
roll out the VIP red carpet for you wherever you're at.
and then like an hour after that was over, I boarded my plane to New York for WrestleMania 35. So
yeah,
this has happened before. This is just, look, we're in play season now. So, and this is the biggest one for my daughter. She had a singing role in that one too, but that was like 3rd grade. Hunter Tillman says, hey everyone, happy Saturday. Are we excited for NXT Vengeance Day? I want to know what everyone's thoughts on who they should call up to the main roster. I think it's about damn time.
We talked a little bit about this on Ask Grapsody about like spots, and there's not a lot up there.
I don't know
NXT people.
So I want to turn that question around on you. Where do you see? Genuine question.
Wait a minute. You hit it with the Nick Khan.
Yeah. Where do you see a spot for people on the main roster? Not just who's ready from NXT, but who do you see a spot for on the main roster? Because the shows feel full right now going into WrestleMania. If you had to bump somebody off the main shows right now, because there's only so many spots, so you move somebody up, somebody's got to go. Who is it and how and why? Right now, I don't think out of Vengeance Day, there is anybody I would call up right now.
Yeah.
Stand and Deliver, maybe a different story. Because I think Stand and Deliver's main event will probably end up being Braun versus Mello. And I think that's what they've been holding off on till WrestleMania weekend.
Yeah, I won't duck your question. I am not excited for this pay-per-view. I don't watch NXT. So I'm not excited for this pay-per-view. I'll probably check it out just to have something on, but I don't watch NXT.
I mean, we were asked about it, so let's take a look at the card. There's 8 matches tonight. It's a good amount of matches. You got 3-way for the NXT Women's Championship. Roxanne Perez is cornered because she's got to face Gigi Dolan and JC Jane in a triple threat match. You've got Apollo Crews versus Carmelo Hayes.
2 out of 3 falls, I guess.
2 out of 3 falls. NXT Women's Tag Team titles. NXT Women's Tag Team titles on the line, which, you know what?
They're still a thing.
Hey, honestly, they're doing better with those titles than the main roster is doing with the WWE Women's Tag titles. You got Katana Chance and Kaden Carter versus Fallon Henley and Kiana James.
I think they're going to retain.
You've got 4-way for the NXT tag titles. The New Day versus Gallus versus Pretty Deadly versus Chase University.
Gallus is back, huh? Interesting.
I mean, I feel like with this being a 4-way and not elimination, it's a good way to get the belts off of the New Day without them having to take a pin. Yeah, that's usually how you do in these scenarios. That's exactly what they did with Charlotte when she was NXT champion, and they were like, "Well, we need her to lose the belt, but also can't be pinned."
What a mess putting the title on Charlotte was. Why did they do that?
Yeah.
But yeah, they're in such an interesting spot because they're bringing some people over from NXT UK, and it sounds like there's visa issues, so that's why they can't bring everybody over. Because I've been sitting the whole time like, all right, where is Mako Satomura?
Right.
Where's Saray? Like, Saray doesn't have visa issues. She's been on this roster. Why aren't they using this girl? Like, what's going on?
North American title, Wesley versus Dijak.
Okay.
So the old T-Bar is in title contention, and he's doing good for himself. And then finally, in a steel cage match for the NXT title, Braun Breaker versus Grayson Waller. I don't think Grayson's winning.
I don't think he's going to win either. I think Braun's going to win.
Yeah, I think Braun has, like, at this stage, you have to take it to WrestleMania weekend. You have to have him go all the way to Stand and Deliver. And then at that point, you can have him lose it to Carmelo.
Yeah, so to answer the second part of the question, I think Braun will be ready to move up by at least the next pay-per-view. I don't think it's time just yet. And I see people say Carmelo. I don't think it's time to move Carmelo up yet. I think that you can still continue to build Carmelo up, especially because after he lost the North American title, they kind of gave him a bunch of losses back to back. And I wouldn't like to see him leave the brand that way. I would like to see him get like at least a good NXT title reign first.
More development for Trick too.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's weird because a few months ago I would have said Toxic Attraction is clearly the obvious one to move up because they could use more tag teams, but I just can't imagine them moving them up without Mandy. Like I don't know how that will work. I know.
So that's NXT Vengeance Day. That's tonight, and Fightful will be covering it. There will be a post show. Make sure to check out the Fightful post show of NXT Vengeance Day. We got Jake Salazar says, except Taker could actually wrestle unlike Bray.
Man,
could he though? We didn't know until fucking 2002.
Y'all really don't like Bray, huh? But I feel like, man, I don't feel like you watch Bray for 5-star classics. I don't feel like you watch him for great wrestling matches. I feel like it kind of does a disservice to what he is and who he is as a character to go, all right, well, you know, he can't wrestle, so he does nothing good. Like, I just don't feel like that's true.
Did you watch the Cody, Jake, or Logan Paul interview, though?
I didn't.
Oh, man. He dropped some gems there. Like, Cody is the guy. And one of the things he talked about was, you know, I was actually surprised on how unaware Logan Paul was of indie wrestling.
Right.
And
Why?
no, well, because of a lot of where he's borrowed his stuff from. But the funny thing was, and Cody was like educating him on it, and Cody was like, "Don't listen to these guys who, you know, will tell you that's not the style to do." Blah blah blah. Cody was like, his quote was so good. He kind of came down on all the people who are like, you know, who down on certain wrestling styles. He's like, "Look, if it's pleasing a crowd, it works." And he's like, "Don't judge it. If the crowd is happy, like that's ultimately pro wrestling."
Yeah.
And he made a remark that's probably going to set some people off, where he's like, you know, when I hear some guy say, "Oh, I'm old school, I'm meat and potatoes," he's like, that's really code word for lazy. And
yeah, he was cooking.
he was, and he was like, you know, some people say it's not just about the moves, it's about the moments. And Cody was like, and you know me, I'm a moments guy, but I honestly think it's both. And like some of the game he was dropping on Logan was so good. And that was one of my reminders again. I was like, nah, man, Cody gets it. And
Cody gets it. He cares about this business. He cares about the betterment of this business. And that's why I'm like, again, you know, whether you're invested in Sami or not, it's hard for me to just be like, nah, this isn't Cody's time. Like, I feel like it is, like for more than one reason. And it's not gotten past me that this makes too much business sense for WWE. Yeah, it would be cool to get this great WrestleMania moment for Sami, but if we're talking about the main event of your biggest show of the year, no, the story is getting a guy to jump ship from your biggest competition to come there in a year and headline that show. That's the story. That's the story that's gonna make it outside of your bubble. People in the wrestling bubble care about Sami. Outside the bubble, it's that we got the biggest guy, one of the biggest guys from AEW to come here, win the Rumble, and main event WrestleMania.
I mean, the thing that really got me too was what Cody told Logan Paul to go watch.
Yeah,
because Logan Paul was shocked to find out that Ricochet was an indie wrestler.
That was the funniest thing.
Yeah,
he was an indie wrestler. Like,
yeah, he was like, he was on the indies, because I think
like,
Logan Paul has
like,
had this idea hammered into him by WWE people that
Seth
you know
Rollins was right about him.
Yeah, well, he was like,
was right.
well, I think Logan Paul has had this idea hammered into him, and WWE has done a great job hammering that into people that, oh, that's the stuff for the bingo halls, that's the stuff for nerds, that stuff doesn't make any money. And so when Logan Paul found out that guy you just had a spot with last night, because this was taped the night after the Rumble, is like that guy you just had a spot with in the Royal Rumble that popped that crowd, that's Ricochet. He's had a huge indie presence, and Cody told him to go watch Will Ospreay versus Ricochet. That was what.
yeah,
Wow.
He said it was
a WWE guy telling somebody to watch that is crazy. But see, again, I think that's what makes Cody so refreshing as a WWE guy. He doesn't behave like the rest of their ecosystem. He's just saying what he really thinks. There's a certain level of genuineness to him that I think is refreshing.
And I like that Cody, in going back to WWE, hasn't forgotten all of that. It's look, this was all stuff that Cody has admitted he wasn't aware of, because the way he came up in a very protected system. But he went and explored the other side of it and came away with a lot more knowledge than he had before. He came to understand the indies, he came to understand Ring of Honor, he came to understand New Japan, and then he helped build AEW and understands that audience. And so he comes back to WWE with this whole wealth of knowledge that he gained elsewhere. And so he doesn't have that perspective that a lot of guys have of, oh, that's indie wrestling, that's just indie wrestling on TV, they're just working for pops, all of that. Cody is like, no, if you are getting pops, you're doing wrestling right, period. And that's, I loved hearing that. I heard that and I was like, yeah, man, Cody should be the guy.
So two things here. How much of that do you think is Logan working? Because now that I'm thinking about it, it fits too much into what Rollins said about him in the interview. Because Rollins was like, no, he's not a wrestler. He doesn't want to be a wrestler. He wants to be famous. I am a wrestler. This is my spot. Get him out of here. And so for him to not be a guy that knows indie wrestling would make too much sense for that storyline, because no, this is Rollins' life. He was a big indie darling. He he's been big everywhere he's gone. He cares about wrestling, and so this would kind of fit his point that this guy don't care about wrestling.
It would, but it was very 4D. I mean, it would be a very 4D thing if it's like the stuff Cody got to talk about
Man,
there.
if anybody to get help, help you.
And look at it this way: the guy that he recommended was an Ospreay match.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Some of that feels a little worky. I don't know.
Hey, I mean, look, it would actually fall into line pretty well. Yeah. But I did like that, just the stuff, because even if you just take it as just the stuff Cody was saying, just to educate fans, I felt like to kind of try and break people's perceptions down when there is a huge sect of people. Hell, I've been wanting to talk about this quote on the show, but, Bryan Danielson, there was a quote dropped from him this week where he was asked about, he talked about in 2020, he said Vince called him while he was on paternity leave, and Vince asked him, hey, is there anything AEW does better than us? And Bryan said that he then took the next month to watch nothing but AEW programming to report back to Vince on it. And he said the report he came back to Vince with, and this probably was what sold Bryan on going to AEW, was the difference between the two is that in WWE, wrestling is a backdrop to your storylines, and in AEW, storylines are a backdrop to the wrestling. And
it's like a wrestling show without wrestling is how he described it.
So are you telling me that Vince was like, nah, go check that out, and then he came and checked it out, and his report back was like, I kind of want to be over there.
Hey, thanks for letting me check it out, man. Great recommendation.
I mean, Cody said that Bryan said the match that convinced him was Cody versus Penta, where he was like, he watched that match and was like, what am I doing? Like, I want to go do that, and I want to do what they're doing. I'm not necessarily
Cody was thinking the opposite. He's like, I can't be doing this hardcore shit. I want to go back over here where I can take 3 bumps in a match and not set myself on fire.
No, I think Cody's gonna set himself on fire in WWE. Are you kidding?
Fam, listen. I just was sitting thinking this the other day, but I said, man, if Cody figures out a way to bleed in the main event of WrestleMania,
he's going to.
Are
you kidding me?
He's gonna try his best.
No, you know what he's gonna do? He's gonna just halfway split himself and then be like, Roman, punch me right here, like 3 or 4 times.
There's definitely going to be blood at that.
There will be blood.
I guarantee it.
But I was thinking about that Bryan quote, and the reason that I liked what Bryan had to say there is because that quote's going to offend a lot of people. Totally. There are people who are going to hear that and basically get as divided as they can be. But you know what I loved about that quote? Again, it goes back to the whole watch your wrestling thing, because there are a lot of people who prefer the wrestling to be the backdrop to the storylines, that ultimately that is what they prefer. Good example of that was last night. I watched SmackDown as a whole, and I had been hyped for SmackDown all day. The reason I was hyped for SmackDown all day was because I wanted to see the fallout from the Royal Rumble. I wanted to hear what Roman had to say. I wanted to see what Sami was going to do. I wanted to hear from Jey Uso. I wanted to hear all of that. I was hyped all day, to the point of where, as I'm watching SmackDown, the whole show, every match that's going by, I'm like, I don't care. I just want to see the ending. I am ready to get to whatever the Bloodline's going to do. Mm-hmm. Every match, all I could think was, all right, let's get to the Bloodline. I'm ready. We got this tag team match between Ricochet and Braun Strowman versus versus Imperium, and I'm like, it's cool, but
oh man,
give me what I'm after. We have Brawling Brutes versus the Viking Raiders. Did not care. Charlotte versus Sonya Deville. Did not care. The women's match. I'm like, the women's match for the Chamber. I'm like, give me Bloodline. And then by the end of the show. By the end of the show, I thought, damn, this is what Bryan's talking about here, because it is true. All of this wrestling here was just filling time till we got to the thing we wanted. And then
can I say that the way that backfired with the tournament, though, because you essentially used the tournament to end the story with Imperium and Braun and Ricochet, and I felt like that was incredibly counterproductive. If this was a tag team tournament to build up tag team wrestling, to end it with a makeshift team winning.
That wasn't even
like,
originally in the tournament.
Exactly. I was like, what?
Yeah. No, that looked bad. And then, but like I said, by the end, I was pleased with that ending. Did not care about the rest of the show. Nothing else on that show like hit for me. I really was just into that really hot ending. And then on the other side of that, 2 minutes later, I turn on Rampage and I get the opener, which was the Elite versus the Firm. And by the end of that match, I was like, hell yeah, it was great wrestling. And I thought I saw two great things there. I saw a really great storyline, saw really great wrestling. And then that Bryan quote just kept repeating in front of me. And I thought, wrestling is a backdrop to storylines. Storylines are a backdrop to wrestling. And my point in all of that is that I came away from that thinking, there are people who absolutely prefer one of those over the other. Yes. And the cool thing is there are now two shows on a large scale that will give you one or the other. And the thing you don't have to do is hold one to the account of the other. You don't have to look at AEW and go, where's the story? Because one, you don't actually care when you ask that question. What you're really just saying is you're trying to find ways to down on this match, but you don't actually care about the story. Especially when 9 times out of 10, that match where you're saying where's the story is leading somewhere, you don't actually care. But either way, you don't have to ask that question. It's not for you if that's what you're after. And on the other side of that, if you're like, man, this was a boring match on WWE TV, I really just want stories. Yeah, good. I really want matches. I'm not interested in the storylines. I'm not interested in people talking. That's not the show for you. There is a show for you over here that's going to give you the matches and all of that. It's two different approaches. You don't have to.
I guess that's why I don't understand why people are so like dead set against Bray and like so angry about it, because it's like, yo, if you don't like the Bray stuff, there's so much other stuff for you to enjoy. And man, I felt like the quote from the press conference that people are gonna dunk on him for, of him saying, I pride myself on taking risks. I'm like, but if you read that quote in entirety, he's not wrong. Like, what he's saying is that some people see this as a sport, some people see it as spectacle. I want to take risks and do different things. That's what I see wrestling as. And he's not wrong for feeling that way. If you just don't enjoy what he's doing, that's your prerogative. But he isn't wrong for saying that, all right, I want to create something different and I want to give people variety.
He's right. I'm into it. I believe it.
Ricardo says Sammy's gonna lose. It's sad but true. I mean,
he's gonna lose.
I don't know that but the thing is, storylines are allowed to be sad. That's the other thing that I think people are missing here is that,
and it's called heat for Roman for his WrestleMania.
You're allowed to have.
That's what I said the week of the MJF stuff. You are not supposed to come away from everything with the happy ending or enjoying everything. You're not supposed to like everything. You're not supposed to like every character. And so I definitely think this is leading somewhere. I don't want to see Sami lose, but that's the beauty of the story. We're not supposed to want to see Sami lose, but he's definitely going to lose. And I think young Jey Uso is going to cost him that match. I feel like it's inevitable.
I think you'll still get
convinced though on Jey Uso being the one.
I
think he will be. I think he's going to come out to
this Jimmy and Jay WrestleMania match.
See, I like, honestly, I like the idea of, because this is how I'm picturing this playing out. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I think you get some kind of ref bump situation, whatever. After we haven't seen, and this is he'll be able to make it. After we haven't seen Jey Uso in a few weeks, or he's been silent or whatever, because he's supposed to defend the titles on SmackDown this week, so. Maybe,
and it's not that long to Elimination Chamber either, right?
It's only 2 weeks. 2 weeks from tonight. So Jey Uso makes his way down, big pop. Finally, he's gonna do the thing, and he super kicks Sami, and Roman looks at him, gives him the nod. He gives him the nod back like "I'm with you," and then finally hits him with a spear. Slow 1, 2, 3. Crowd is booing. They're so angry. Montreal not happy with what just happened. Screw job again. And then another guy we haven't seen in a few weeks, Kevin Owens' music hits, and he lays out Roman with the stunner, lays out Jay with the stunner. Well, lay out Solo with the stunner too. Why not? Montreal's own Kevin Owens. He and Sami have a stare down. Crowd is like, please, please, please. They hug. Massive pop right in the hometown. And you go off the air with a happy ending that Sami finally embraced his friend in their hometown. They still get the happy ending moment, but Roman is still the champion.
Yeah, I think that's happening. But like I said, I think that this has always been leading to Jay having his moment because, as I told you on this podcast, Sami was always going to turn on them. And it was because of this, that's the story they've been building. If you've been paying attention to this thing for the longest, and I just covered this for Bleacher Report, the thing that really changed the dynamic between Sami and Roman was Survivor Series. Because that was when he noticed, he was like, oh no, it's not just that I don't believe you're loyal to me. It's that I can see you really care about that dude. Like, that's really your friend. Like, I don't care what I say and I do. You're always going to care about Kevin Owens in some way. And I'm never going to be able to change that. And the reason that he knows that is because he saw it himself with the Jimmy and Jay stuff. The reason that the Kevin Owens stuff hit Jay so hard is because Sami did for KO what Jimmy tried to do for him at Hell in a Cell. And that's what made that moment so good, because he was like, no, Sami's really a genuine guy. And I think that's when you connect the dots of him calling him his brother, that's what he sees. He sees in him like, no, I'm not going to beat Sami down with you guys. But the thing that's going to change, and the reason he's going to side with him at Montreal, is because he knows he fucked up. He knows... He knows, just like I said last week, he knows that I vouched for this guy in the trial of Sami Zayn. And he knows that now he can't show his face again, because now it's not just that I don't agree with this and I don't want to attack Sami. It's that I vouched for him, and that this guy handed Roman one of his most humiliating moments as champion. And I paved the way for that, because he was ready to just kick him out on Raw 30, and he stopped it. So now he's going to be like, I can't show my face again. But the thing that will redeem him is costing him that match at Montreal.
The thing I liked about, and I said this on After the Week, but the thing I liked about that storyline the most, especially that Rumble ending, was that by the end of it, we've all been waiting. Like, when's Roman finally going to turn on Sami? Oh, is Sami, playing Roman? What's happening here? We all had our ideas about it. When is it going to happen? And the thing I liked in the end is that nobody did any of that. Everybody just acted in the moment. It was all just a genuine reaction to what was happening in that moment. Nobody had a master plan. Like, it was, Sami he didn't like what was happening, but he was going to continue to let it happen until he saw Roman going too far. Roman, he wasn't going to kick Sami out. He was okay with Sami being around as long as he was listening to him. But the moment that Sami defied him, that was the moment Roman was like, fuck this guy. And that's when he finally did something. And I like that even Jimmy, there's no necessarily a master plan with Jimmy. It's that, like you just said, everything you laid out is a reactionary thing with Jimmy. It is that I think Jimmy all the way along was being genuine, but in the very end is like, well, now Sami made me look bad. So now I have to react because of what happened. And I like that no one was playing anybody here. Everybody here was acting genuine and and basically the entire breakdown was a momentary breakdown, and it made the moment feel that much bigger.
Well, see, I never felt like Sami had a master plan. When I was telling you that Sami was going to turn on him, I said because that's where the story beats have been going all along. All the way back to Kevin Owens in the back saying, hey, you know what I would do? I turn on them first. And I mean, all of this stuff throughout the match, him getting the moment to attack Kevin Owens during the match, and he wouldn't do it. Like I told you guys last week, he's never attacked this guy outside of a match. He's never just attacked him in a outside of the ring situation. He's always hesitated. And so all throughout the match, he kept going like, don't get up, man. Just let it go. It's over. Which was, again, it
Yeah.
mirrored all of the Jimmy and Jay stuff.
But he
And
was like letting the beatdown happen though. Like I mean, he let Solo mash that chair around his neck before
the whole
he
time
finally realized.
he was walking up and going like, "Hold on, guys!" Like he was doing that the whole time.
Right.
He never joined in the entire time it was happening. He was like, "Nah, I'm not feeling this. Like, if you just want to beat him in a wrestling match, I get that. But if you want to beat him down, I'm not with that." And he's been that way for the entire time, even before Royal Rumble. So like the entire match when he's slamming his head against the stairs, which that looked brutal. I was like,
yeah,
whoa. When he's slamming his head against the stairs, and you can see Sami in the background, and he's just like not with any of that. And I think the way that they built all that stuff was great because you could feel how much Roman hates Kevin Owens. And
You know what's
there's
interesting?
storied reasons for him to hate him because he's been his rival all along for
a
2
long time.
years. So you can really feel in those moments like he hates Kevin Owens, but really hates him.
That goes back to the idea again, like Brian said. Wrestling is backdrop to story here because, oddly enough, that's probably my least favorite Kevin Owens Roman Reigns match of all the matches they've had against each other.
is.
But it's like the story was the thing we were all after there, and again, bringing it full circle. I think if your flavor of pro wrestling is that you prefer stories, then you're eating good right now.
Yes.
If your flavor of pro wrestling is that you prefer the wrestling, you're
I'm
really
spoiled.
eating good. You're spoiled, man. The last month of Dynamite has been phenomenal. And
Jesus.
I guess I'm just saying all this to say that when I see certain guys like, and I see prominent guys say that like, hey, AEW should focus more on stories because that's what works for WWE. No, don't.
But they have focused on stories.
And we
as
need to
well, though.
No,
also
but
talk
I'm not
about
saying-
how
I'm not saying
WWE
stories-
only has one fucking story. When everybody's like, they changed the blah 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 to cinema. Besides, what else besides the fucking main event angle though? You guys?
But my point is though, AEW does have stories because that's not to say that the stories don't exist.
wrestling matches
but,
are stories.
But again, it is the thing Brian's saying that it's there as a backdrop to the wrestling. It's the stories in AEW are to lead to more wrestling, whereas the wrestling in WWE is to lead to more story, and it's just a different approach to it.
Yeah.
But it exists, and nobody's saying it doesn't. It's just
Yeah, I did think it was a little nasty when people are like, see how successful this segment is at the end of the Rumble. That's what everybody should be doing. That's what indie wrestling should be
And
doing. That's what AEW should be doing.
I hated that.
I thought that was a little nasty. Like you can say that this was really good and WWE executed it very well, but also enjoy other things for what they are. You don't have to make everything the same thing. But like I said, this was amazing. I thought they did everything they needed to do in this segment. And I think the best thing about the segment is it didn't feel like this was a culmination of Roman's story. It actually didn't. This felt like a culmination of everything Jay and Roman have gone through for 2 years. Like, I feel like really the main character of that segment was Jay in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's the other reason why I don't agree with Sami being the guy to beat Roman, because I don't feel like Sami is the main character in any of this. I feel like he's the catalyst that caused all of it. Like he's the catalyst that caused the Jay stuff with Roman to break down again.
And that's what Roman was saying last night in his promo when he was talking to Sami in the corner. Is like, you did all this. Like, my family was good. We were lit. We were on our way up.
This doesn't feel like Sami is heading to be a main eventer. This feels like Sami was a catalyst in what's going to eventually be the implosion of the bloodline. And I don't feel like that's happening in 2 months, but I feel like it's coming. Like, it's just the stuff with Jay, the writing's on the wall. Like, it's coming. And I mean, even the stuff with Jimmy, because if you follow the Jimmy storyline, that Jimmy stood up for Jay in 2020. And
whoever said Jimmy was lying was right, because like there's no way he hasn't talked to his twin brother in this.
No, he's absolutely talked to him. He's absolutely talked to him. But I feel like Jimmy stood up for him, and then he, fell in line with him and joined the bloodline because no, this is my family. I'm always going to stand with my family. Mm-hmm. That didn't change on Saturday night. He liked Sami until he hit Roman with that chair. He was like, nah. When it's blood, you out of here.
Yeah.
I like you, but nah, I'm always going to stand up for my family.
That's what I love about it. That's all been genuine in that. I had a point here and I lost it. The train is gone.
That was a great angle though at the end of Royal Rumble. That's
Yeah.
the first angle I've ran back of WWE, and
It was
like,
man.
I went and watched it again in full. Like
all
it
of the
really
notes
did.
were great. The thing that I never noticed until I watched this, and I was like, man, it would have been very clever for them to just throw that note in of Sammy hitting him with the chair, the same as Seth. But the reason that that's poetic is because Roman has not started a stable since Shield, and a good part of that is because he didn't want to be betrayed again, and he made the bloodline the way it is in his image and made it family because my family's not going to
Family
betray
can't
me.
betray him, right?
They never do that to me. But the thing that nobody counted on is that he would actually genuinely like Sammy, and I think that's the thing that people are missing. He did like Sammy, and Sammy did get him to get his guard down until Survivor Series, and that's when he realized you're never going to pick me over that guy.
Right.
Orion Bid 666 says Melo versus Apollo 2 out of 3 falls. Get your popcorn. Love that. Let's see. We got Mr. CJ Lilly says, what do you think of having music performances during PLE? Because the song only complaint by talent was the Hardy song taking time from Alexa and Bianca. I don't think people thought it took time from Alexa and Bianca. I think that, well, for one, the shortest match was the Pitch Black match. As far as musical performances in wrestling, I've always felt this way about musical performances in pro wrestling. The pro wrestling audience, whether it's AEW, whether it's WWE, any promotion you look at, to me, you look at that, and that is a very diverse audience, which means you're not going to find likely 2 people who like the same type of music.
Never going to be a universally
right.
happy
Concerts
thing.
are different because obviously the concerts, people are all there for that artist. Or even like a musical show, people are there for music. But when music is there to interrupt something else, you run the risk of what the response has gotten from fans because those people aren't all there for that specific thing. And not all these people have the same taste in music. And a lot of people didn't know who Hardy was.
People don't really understand what the point of this was and what the point of performances like this are. This is a popcorn break. They want you to leave. They want you to go to the bathroom. They want you to ignore this performance.
Yeah.
It's an interlude. So they wanted everybody to be like, that sucked. And then when the main event comes, they bring you back up.
I think musical Oh, go ahead.
But I will say this: there have been performances at wrestling shows where I'm like, "Oh, that was kind of good." Like, prime example: I'm not this huge Bad Bunny fan, but I thought Bad Bunny had a good performance at Royal Rumble. This performance is bad.
Well, so
not good.
Important. This is what I'm going to say: musical performances in pro wrestling should always tie back to the wrestling itself. If you can do that, then at least you keep people who are into the show invested.
Right.
Bad Bunny was doing a song called Booker T and had
With
Booker T out there while he sang Booker T, right? And
then they got to beat up Bad Bunny.
Yeah, and then Bad Bunny also was, he's been in Royal Rumbles. He's also he had matches at WrestleMania. So like Bad Bunny is somebody that people associate with pro wrestling to the point of where he's in 2K23 this year. And on the other side of that, you have musical performances that at least people can tie into wrestlers. Like I probably would never pay to go, even though I love Lars. I wouldn't go to a Rancid concert, but I will say that I saw Rancid perform Ruby Soho, and I was like, this is great. And of course, it was Ruby Soho's entrance. So at least you're tying the fans' interest in that wrestler to this music. So like the people who got to see Living Color perform CM Punk down to the ring at WrestleMania 29. Again, whether or not they like Living Color, they at least care about CM Punk in some way. So therefore, they're going to be into the CM Punk performance.
Didn't one of these WrestleMania you reviewed this week have a Diddy Dirty Money performance on? I remember being at that show and being like, this sucks.
Yes, and that's actually my example. There is that people were not into that because had nothing to do with the show. It was literally just there to take away from the show.
What song did they perform? I don't remember this.
Coming Home. Yeah.
Come man, Puppy came out and was like, "Yeah, WrestleMania," and I was like, "No."
Oh yeah, now I remember. Oh,
Yeah. He did a medley of other songs too, but on the other hand, you look at the year before that, you had Reg's favorite Flow Rider performing The Rock down to the ring, but he was at least there to be tied.
No. That's Will's favorite Flow Rider. Don't try to duck those charges.
But he was there.
Don't try to put that on me.
But what was he there to do, right? He was there to promote The Rock. And so therefore, whether or not you like Flow Rider, he's here for The Rock. So therefore, we're cheering Flow Rider because we like The Rock. And on the other side of that, you had MGK performing Cena down to the ring. MGK got booed because the people were not there for Cena. And therefore, regardless of how we feel about MGK, you're performing for John Cena. Boo MGK. And that was how that went down. So I don't know. Halabasana says, is it safe to say that now that it now makes sense to call compelling stories the real draw as opposed to individual wrestlers? No.
I wouldn't say so.
Yes and no. Because I still feel like the story stuff is still inside the bubble. Like, because if you're a Laps fan, for example, you don't know anything about this Roman stuff. You don't know anything about the story. But if they tell you that Roman is going to wrestle Rock at WrestleMania, you're going to come in because Rock is still a draw as an individual. There's no story there. And I feel like what we're getting with Sami and Roman is way better than anything they could do with Rock right now. But Rock is still Rock. He's still a draw for a reason.
Yeah. I mean, I knew The Rock wasn't coming. Like, guys, we've been saying this for a while. Like, that man was not coming. And
we knew at Survivor Series that he wasn't coming. They dedicated a whole show to him, and he was like, "Hey, I have a sandwich in the refrigerator. I'm trying to finish. I'm not gonna be there."
Look, and like you should see this as a good thing now. I think that with all the people talking about, why won't Rock show up? Oh, Austin turned down a match. Guys, the fact that for the first time in a long time, you can look at the roster, the WrestleMania roster, and look at it up and down and go, they don't need it. They don't need Brock Lesnar. They're going to have Brock, but you don't need Goldberg. Yeah, like, and granted, I think WrestleMania 2021 was a good example of that too. I thought WrestleMania 2021, when a lot of those guys weren't there and the show was fine, I think you could look at this kind of that same way of like, we can kind of say we've reached a point where the part-timers don't have to show up and you still have a pretty good show.
Right.
When you look at Roman's entire singles lineup of opponents, going back to the first time Roman had a singles match at WrestleMania, it was Brock Lesnar, part-timer. Next year, he faced Undertaker, part-timer. The year after, he faced Triple H, part-timer. Yeah. Then he faced Taker, part-timer. And then he faced Brock again, part-timer. Mm-hmm. And then he did face Drew McIntyre. It was like the only person on the full-time roster he faced. And then the year after that, it wasn't even at WrestleMania.
What was the Drew? Was that after COVID?
Yeah, no, that was after he came back from leukemia.
Oh, so that was the WrestleMania before COVID.
Yes, and then COVID, he wasn't even there for WrestleMania the year after that, but he was going to face Goldberg, part-timer, and then WrestleMania 37, it was originally going to be Roman versus Edge, part-timer, but then the fans kind of forced them to put Bryan in that, so at least did have one full-timer in that show. And then the year after that, it was Roman versus Brock, part-timer. Mm-hmm. Point being, they've always felt like Roman needed somebody bigger than the rest of the roster to have a WrestleMania match because the rest of the roster wasn't there for him.
I mean, it's kind of still true because you picked the guy in Cody that has been outside of the roster, and you're still technically doing it.
But at least it feels like the outcome of it will have lasting effects on the show. It's not like, this is the person who's going to be gone tomorrow, the night after.
Cody's going to be back on Raw and all the shit after
he's going to be at work on Monday.
Right.
Yeah. And I guess you could kind of consider Bryan and Edge. Neither Bryan nor Edge were there 2 weeks after that WrestleMania match. So it is kind of along those same lines. But point being, now we finally have Roman versus somebody that has long-lasting implications on the show itself. That's actually kind of cool.
Cool. I now stuck in my head the build to that McIntyre match because I was trying to remember he wrestled McIntyre at WrestleMania and what was the build to that match. But now I remember it was Drew saying he wanted the match and when Roman said he wanted him, he then beat him down in the ring, and he was screaming in his face, "You should have said no, Roman. You should have said no."
Yeah. So, but Roman and Drew, and go figure, that was the time that Roman was out of the main event. But that's really one of the only times that they were willing to have Roman tie it up on WrestleMania with somebody who's a full-time member of the roster. And let's see, we got Leonard Aaron says Seth should have won the Rumble. Roman having the Sami stuff on top of Seth at Mania would have been peak theater. Major miss by the E here, really. I don't think there's a miss. I don't know where the miss is coming from. Like, for all the people who are like, I'm tired of Cody. What's happened? Cody's been here. He's had 2 shows so far, and they've both been good. What's the problem here? Like, the Rumble was good.
He hasn't even given us a chance to be tired of him yet.
Sami Zayn was good. What? I don't understand the problem here.
I will say this, and this is coming from somebody that agrees with Cody winning, and I do think that was the right call. I do think there's something to people feeling a way about them building stories around Roman for a year or so, and then just completely sidestepping those and going, all right, well, Cody Rhodes. Because I do think that there is plenty of reason why Rollins should have won, because he never got his rematch. He beat this man at Royal Rumble last year, and he never got a rematch. He's ducked this guy for an entire year, and they've never gone back to this storyline. So I do understand why some fans are like, all right, well, I don't dislike Cody, but at the same time, if I've been watching WWE for a year, I kind of want another payoff to these storylines.
We got generic username here says, Darby has an old mentor nearing the end of the road, a tragic backstory, a distinct look, and fights like he's Deku from early My Hero Academia. We are really watching a real life anime character.
He kind of is a real life anime character, just all the way to his look and everything, to the fact that, like, his story, the fact that he's willing to take careless risks to win a match, and then it ends up costing him a match. Like, I feel like that's a main character trait of Goku, that he always does something stupid and reckless that causes him a win, but then he'll somehow come back and get a win anyway because he learned from the win before. And that's a Darby trait through and through. He'll lose to somebody and they'll learn from that and come back and beat him.
I do want to talk about Darby losing the TNT title to Joe. Didn't see that coming, actually. I should have, but I didn't. And that was a cool moment for Joe.
Yeah, that was a surprise to me, too. I was kind of expecting Darby to keep going with it, but I like it. I mean, just like everybody's been talking about, it's back in the thing. Hot potato, hot potato. Why is the TNT title hot potato? The shit is defended every single week, my people. Why wouldn't it be? Every single Wednesday or Friday, that shit's on the line. Of course, it's going to be change hands. It's going to be hot potato because these are the hottest people in the world. And they're bringing in people from all over the world in storyline base. Like, you haven't prepared for this guy, so of course he can probably beat you. You know what I mean? Like, there's all these things that are.
And I'd like that Darby has been defending the title since, his first title defense was against Mike Bennett the Friday after. Right. It was literally, he won the belt on Wednesday, defended the title on Friday. Mm-hmm. And so they have been telling the story of Darby is like, no, I'm not turning down a challenge. I'm going to defend it Wednesday. I'm going to defend it Friday, Wednesday, Friday. Doesn't matter. I'm going to give you title defenses. And he crashed and burned very quickly.
Yes.
Because he defended it. Like, he had more title defenses in this short little 3-week reign than a lot of guys have in their 9-month reigns. And so he had 5 title defenses.
A story that you're telling there, I think. That's what it sounds like. Yeah, crazy.
I feel like people are being disingenuous as well when it comes to the TNT title, because I think it's a difference between it getting hot potatoed with the Sami stuff, and that stuff wasn't working, and some of that stuff wasn't good. I feel like at least the TNT title was back on track in the terms of the match quality, the fact that it's main eventing shows again. Mm-hmm. I feel like they're actually doing good stuff story-wise with the title again. So I don't think that's the same at all. Just because these are short reigns doesn't mean those things are the same. Right. And I feel like the story here was great. I didn't expect Darby to lose either, but I really enjoyed the story of Darby being reckless, and it cost him the match. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just that he took all of these matches ahead of time. he came out there with the hoodie on with the pins on it, and Joe eventually used that
It's
against
like
him.
Joe used all of his reckless shit against him.
He set the table up on the outside, and Joe eventually stepped out of the way and let him run into it.
He knows he's gonna fly out here.
Yeah, and I thought the funniest part of the entire match was Darby walking around the ring, pulling up the ring, pulling the padding up, and the whole time Joe is just standing
Joe's
over
just
there,
letting him.
cleaning his face, washing the blood off, like, all right, come on out, and then he just proceeds to like end him with his own hoodie, and then slam him on the planks and beat him.
All
1,
the
2,
stuff
3.
that he did, that like he set all of this up, and then I slammed him hard on the stuff that he set up. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I thought it was great. And, Darby's obviously leaving to film some stuff now. And he'll be
What's
back.
he filming?
I know he's got I think it's a show he's doing, but either way, he'll be off for a little bit.
Yeah, but I thought this was great. I thought it made Darby look great, and I think Joe has been tremendous for the last few months. I think Joe has been amazing. Like all the way to the point when he won, I was like, how dare I doubt the king of television?
They said
of course
the man
winning.
was washed, Phil. They said he was washed for years.
People have been saying that for years. I mean, I remember 2013 people were saying he was washed. So I even accidentally came across, because when I made that statement on Twitter that Cody, or that who did I say? I said that Darby and Joe. Darby's been Joe's best opponent of the last 10 years. And by the way, I had a top guy in professional wrestling today reach out to me and tell me how much he agreed with that. So that was that. Yeah, because I had a few people disagreeing, but they were like, "Nah, I think this is
kind of disagree."
I think this. They were like, "This has been a fire point, and I've seen the best I've seen out of Joe in a long time." And this was from like top name.
The only name I would throw out there that would disagree is probably Finn Balor. I feel like
and I even said in the reply to that, I said, "This is high praise for Darby here, because I think the Finn Balor stuff occupied that space before this. I think this is better than the Finn Balor stuff, and I love Finn Balor.
Darby stuff is better."
Yeah, but either way, my point here is simply that I think that just what he was able to bring out of Joe. And again, I went and looked up some old reviews on before I made that point. I was like, okay, let me make sure that I'm accurate here. And I found an old Kurt Angle match, and it was from 2013. And I was like, okay, was this any good? And I started scrolling the comments, and all the comments on it were like, man, I can't believe how washed both Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe were in this match. And so I watched the whole thing, and I thought, ooh, this was like not good. I remember now why people thought at the time maybe it's time to end this.
Yeah.
So
I mean, and I enjoyed NXT Joe. I thought NXT Joe was great. It only jumped off the rails with WWE once he came to the main roster, and it was really only when he started having the matches, because I thought one of the best things they did with Joe was when during the Triple H and Rollins feud, when Rollins came out there to confront Triple H, and he turned his back on him and he walked out, and all of a sudden Joe just came in and jumped him. I thought that beatdown was amazing.
That was great.
yeah,
And the stuff he had with Brock Lesnar was really good too, even though he
Should have beat Brock. Oh my God,
he
should
should
have
beat
beat Brock.
man.
Let's see. We got ShotKid29 says, I don't go by early reports about movies anymore. Cabin in the Woods was shelved for years because the studio didn't think it was good, and Weinstein Company tried to bury it first. Bury the first John Wick release. Just put it out, and if it sucks, it sucks. I mean, that's kind of fair if you spent the money.
Yeah,
But,
that's what I don't really, with how awful movies and Tubi and shit. Like, just put that shit on your streaming services. What do you want? Like, what are you gonna do? Not have it show forever? That's crazy.
I mean, that's fair, but the only thing that made me question it is these are guys that had nothing to do with the making of that movie coming in and going like, no, this really wasn't
shit
good.
trash.
Like, I think if these were the people that shelved it, I would understand. But these are guys that had nothing to do with shelving
like,
it,
I saw
and they
that
were
shit,
just like,
that
I
shit is
saw it, and I was
trash.
like, I don't think y'all want it. But it is fair to say you still want it. I can't disagree with that, but I don't know. That did give me reason to pause.
yeah. Let's see. We got.
But with how shit works nowadays, like people are with like say like the Velma thing, people are gonna hate watch it into oblivion. I'll put that shit out.
Of course.
Let's see. Thoughts on Asuka's return at the Rumble? Is the Elimination Chamber a must-win for her?
Yes.
Yes.
I honestly think there were few things in the Rumble I enjoyed more than Dewdrop coming back and getting her name back.
Great.
Long live Piper Nivens.
Love
Never
it.
say that name on television again.
What is a dewdrop?
What is
Yeah,
that?
get
What
that
is
out.
that?
Nope. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, so I feel like that was one of the best surprises of the Rumble. And Asuka coming back after they built up this story of her going back to Japan to find what she had lost and coming back with the new look, with the kind of makeup and everything. And she's now taken seriously again. Like
That
I've been begging
women's
for again.
Royal Rumble match finish was dope too. With the
that was
Asuka
incredible.
and Asuka.
Love the finish.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah, I actually think the women's Rumble was the better Rumble this year.
Me too.
I thought that the surprises that they used from people that were actually on the brand, like it wasn't like they used legends, but like say the Asuka thing, for example, that's technically not a surprise, but it is a surprise because they debuted her in a new look, they debuted the new music, and she wrestled differently this time. Like, man, I'm telling you, I've rewatched her doing that kick reversal on Zoe Stark into that German suplex tons of times. It was incredible. Push this woman to the moon. Take her seriously. I definitely think she's winning Elimination Chamber. And Asuka and Bianca should be the match at WrestleMania.
It does make SmackDown look really bleak, by the way, though, in that both champions, their contenders, will have come from Raw. That that there was nobody nobody was worthy on SmackDown to challenge Charlotte.
Still no Ronda, huh?
Ronda's apparently getting that, according to Meltzer. Ronda's facing. They're doing Ronda and
They're gonna dust off
Shayna.
those old women's tag team champions.
Yeah, it's gonna be Ronda.
Not dust.
Yeah, it's gonna be Ronda and Shayna versus Damage Control at WrestleMania. Which
We got
look,
the power.
no,
We got the stage. The page. The stage.
honestly, I
Hate
do
it.
think
Hate
like I there's a piece of me that says, look, good for Shayna and Dakota to get a WrestleMania spot with each other. That's actually really cool.
Oh, yeah, that is cool.
Yeah, so I actually look at that aspect of it, and I'm like, that's probably a spot that that the two of them have talked about a long time, and I am actually gonna love to see that. On the other side of that, shout out Matt Galloway for this point, but I can't believe how many years in a row, and now it's not even worth doing. WWE has blown Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch. They had a few
I don't think it's
opportunities to
happening
do
no
that
more.
match. Oh yeah, no, I know. It's interesting that
think
that
it's
first year it was supposed to happen. It was the hottest.
It was
match
the
in
hottest
world.
angle in the whole company.
It was the hottest angle in the company. The one match everybody wanted to see. Think about it. It was supposed to happen at Survivor Series. Becky Lynch got busted open, so then it got delayed to WrestleMania. But they were like, "Nah, we got to get Charlotte in there. She's WrestleMania main event," even though nobody was asking for it.
She was
And
the
then
glue
last
in that
year-
match, Will. She was the glue in that match. She just said that in an interview. She was the glue in that match. You're wrong.
She says she was the reason that match even happened. Actually,
Charlotte
be
wildin'.
talking crazy.
Charlotte. But then last year at WrestleMania, it was arguably one of the hottest matches they could have run. And that, hey, you got Ronda back, you got Becky as champ, we can run it back again. This is the match. But the problem was you never paid off the Bianca story where you did what you did to her at SummerSlam, so you had to pay that off. So therefore, guess what we're doing again? Charlotte versus Ronda Rousey. And
that
now
match wasn't good either.
No one
here we
cared.
are a year later where the match actually could have probably happened, but now there's no steam left to it because there's no steam left to Ronda. And so therefore, Ronda versus Becky, the fourth opportunity to do it, not going to happen. And I don't think it's happening now.
Now it seems like they're
It's-
going with Becky and Bailey, right?
I am not a scoop guy, but I don't think that match is happening. I don't think there's even talk internally anymore about that match happening.
No.
And I think the fact that Ronda wasn't included at all with Ronda Rousey should be your first hint that it's not happening. And I mean, hey, I do think that that's a good feud for the tag titles. I wish that Dakota and Io felt like, world beaters so that it didn't feel as predictable as it feels like. Because now it's just like, oh, well, Shayna and Ronda are going to win it. There's no other option here. But I don't know. I feel like they screwed up so many things with the women's division this year because I almost feel like I understand why she's challenging Charlotte, but I feel like they teased the Bianca stuff for so long, and to not go back to that is kind of strange. And again, I get why she's picking Charlotte. Charlotte handed her most deflating loss of her career. And I don't even think that's close. Like her beating her at WrestleMania completely derailed her run that year. And, it makes sense to revisit it in front of a crowd because they did wrestle at
In a
COVID Mania.
gym, yeah.
So I get it. But it is weird that they're not doing the Bianca stuff. And I felt like story-wise, if you're doing a WrestleMania rematch, the rematch should have been Asuka versus Charlotte because that's a more storied rivalry. And especially now, Asuka going in this direction and being taken more seriously again, it makes more sense that she would go, no, Charlotte is the one I want to beat. But I'm not going to complain because I do think that Bianca Asuka is going to be a good match if they go that route. And I do think that Rhea and Charlotte have good chemistry, so it should be fine. And SmackDown definitely needs Rhea. I'm starting to wonder what they're doing with Becky. I wouldn't be surprised if the SmackDown title match becomes a triple threat.
Yeah. No, honestly, like I'm interested. The bottom line is I'm at least interested in
How are
what
they
all
going to
happens
fill
there.
up 2 WrestleMania days?
Can I say?
They've got plenty of time.
Yeah, they got plenty. Can I say this though? There's a lot. Every time I get this feeling, I feel like I'm like one step closer to hell. But every once in a while, this feeling pops in my head that was Vince right? And like every single time I have that thought, like I said, I'm like, an angel is like losing its wings. But when I think about the women's tag titles and how Vince was like, as soon as Naomi and Sasha walked out, was like, we don't have women's tag titles anymore. We're not even going to talk about them. They're gone. Moved on. Didn't talk about him. Hunter brought him back, and that got him brownie points in the moment. But he didn't really have like a fleshed out tag division to do so. It wasn't really filling a need.
Doesn't.
And that's my point here now is that now we are months later, and he still doesn't have the division for tag titles. And I'm wondering, did those belts need to be brought back if you didn't have the division for it? And
Well, 2 things. I do think Vince was wrong.
Let's just say that on record.
Just off rip, I do think he was wrong about women's tag team wrestling because it can be viable, but you have to do the work to build a division.
Sure.
And they have not done the work to build a women's tag division.
both times. I think the launching the belts in
I-
general, where they were like, hey, let's just put a bunch of women together and then call it a tag division. And it was like, but you didn't make it, there was no need for this in the moment.
Yeah, but the other thing is, I think they brought the belts back because they thought that
thought they
Sasha
could.
and Naomi were coming back. And
I think they think so.
I think that's the big reason why they reestablished them when they did. But the thing is, they really got off to a bad foot anyway because I thought the way they ended that tournament was stupid. Putting the title on Leah and
awful.
Raquel made no sense.
So bad.
And just to give them a short reign and then have
I
Damage
forgot that
Control
Aaliyah
beat
was
them
tag
anyway.
team champion until somebody tweeted that
Yeah,
the other day, and
that
I was
was-
like, "What?"
That was stupid. And then on top of that, having them lose ahead of Clash at the Castle just so they could get the titles back
Oh
was
my
stupid.
god, that
Like,
was so dumb.
Yeah, I
No,
don't think
it
they
hasn't
booked
been
those
booked
titles well.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't think that means that Vince was right. I just think that they still haven't booked those
still
titles
haven't
well.
did it.
They
Yeah.
haven't built any rivalries for those titles at all. Like you can't name any team in recent memory who has made it their main goal to be tag champions and elevate that division. You can't think of any other than probably Sasha and Bailey. That's it.
Yeah. You know, it's funny too, is in our group chat we had kind of figured it out. We were like, you notice the way Naomi's tweeting? Does it kind of look like she's not going to be in the Rumble?
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah.
guess.
We're like, yeah, it kind of looks like it. Let's see. We got
Shout out to Naomi though, man. Those,
Yeah.
That photo she did looked amazing.
Joseph Snark says, wrestling fans being disingenuous, Phil, say it ain't so. We got another from
First time.
Tyrone Kidd who says, hey guys, I'm shocked that no one thought All-American Cody tried to pull a Rocky IV with Gunther. All that was missing was the post-match speech. He says, plus, since today is my birthday, I'm using my wish to have Will and Reg say 3 nice things about Howdy and
I already
Bray,
said
bro.
one. I already said one today. I like their 3-second jump.
All right, let's go. I think Bray Wyatt cuts a pretty good promo. I think that Bray Wyatt, fuck. I think Sister Abigail is a great finisher. And I think that Uncle Howdy nope, can't do it. I can't do it.
Uncle Howdy has a very cool
mean-
jacket on.
I mean, say what you will. I feel like a lot of times the visuals for the Bray stuff does look good. And I think that that's one of the things about him going back to WWE that always made the most sense to me. I feel like he's going to get the best out of production values than anybody else.
Yeah, I think the main point I want to make in my last Bray Wyatt point, because I'm tired of it. I want him to succeed. Like, I wanted to watch Pitch Black match and be like, damn, that was awesome. I don't watch it and be like, I hope he sucks. I hope this sucks. I hope in WWE in general, I don't watch the show. I don't hate watch. I hate when people are like, well, just turn it off. I'm not hate watching the show. I want the show to be good. I'm watching SmackDown because I want to enjoy it, not because I'm like, let me find the worst shit about it. It's like, no, I fucking love pro wrestling, dude. If they're doing a good show, I'm in. When that post-match Royal Rumble shit, I was standing up in my space like, holy shit, this is great. This is amazing. I rewinded. I want it. It's not that I hate WWE. I don't hate WWE. That's silly. I spent thousands and thousands of dollars on this shit. Most importantly than that, time. I spent 30 fucking years invested in this one company, not even all of professional wrestling. I just started being a full professional wrestling fan. For 25 of those years, I was just WWE. When people would say something like, it's all about WWE. What's your favorite show? WWE. What's your favorite WWE? People would be like, do you still like wrestling, Reggie? Do you still? It's all about, I don't hate this company. I want it to be a great show. I want Bray Wyatt to come out and have, I don't even care about 5-star classes. I just want him to have some shit that's viable to me to want to fucking watch for more than 10 minutes. I think he's a great guy. I think people are kind of misconstrued of like, oh, why does he hate watching? I don't hate watch shit. That's dumb. I'm not an idiot. I love pro wrestling. I'm gonna watch this shit because I like it.
I thought Bray came off very likable in the press conference as well. I thought listening to the press conference, I thought a lot of his answers, I agreed with them.
And I agreed when he said he doesn't watch his matches back. I'm like, I don't watch them shits back either. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So we got Brain Moore says Cody said in that interview that he thought his neck tattoo was going to be smaller. Did he not look at the stencil once it was on him?
Seriously, what do you?
I mean, he's had some funny shit about the tattoo too. Like, I watched the whole thing. The way he was talking about how
Cody
when he
is
showed up
funny.
in the production meeting and JR wouldn't stop staring at it, like, and Tony Khan was like, "Really?"
Like, dude, it's coming out of the top of your suit. Like, your suit can't even cover it up. We can still
Hilarious.
see it.
Yeah, that was a hilarious night when he first showed up on TV with it. But
Because
yeah,
remember, he was wearing the scarf at C2E2, and everybody's like,
Why is he wearing that?
yeah, hilarious. But yeah, no, and actually, you are right when I think about it. They did air vignettes of this guy training for weeks, just for him to end up going against this Austrian guy at the end of the Rumble. It totally is Rocky IV.
it is.
Love it.
Shot Kid says Logan Paul occupies the same space I put ringside Glenn Corney and Vinny Rue among others who are nothing more than attention/fame whores. Anytime I've tuned into WWE recently, he and Dom are the two people I changed the channel on to not watch them.
You didn't like Dom and Ray's NASCAR race?
Well, but see, I think that the Logan Paul stuff, it has its place. I will say that
The Logan Paul stuff's not that offensive to me as it is to everybody else.
I will say that I did not care about Logan Paul coming in and getting a title match right away. And I do think that they've kind of understood now the way to position him as an outsider. Because even when he came in a Rumble and everybody jumped him, he's like, no, we're not letting you get a title shot because you haven't been here for months. And so I feel like that and the way they're building towards the Rollins match tells me that they've understood like the way wrestlers and some wrestling fans see Logan Paul now.
Exactly. That's why it's not as offensive to me. They're like, here's a celebrity. He's coming in. He's doing like they're positioning him in to get heat, and Rollins is going to really ramp it up here in the next few
No,
weeks.
they're gonna smoke that match. That match is gonna be good.
Yeah. The Ricochet spot was fucking nuts. You know?
Oh yeah, that was great.
Let's see. So, talking about a report I dropped yesterday. So, Shame Monster says, ROH, hopefully the tapings aren't always painfully quiet.
Orlando.
ORL. He says, bounce around, do ROH staples, Maryland, Vegas, Milwaukee, Chi, NYC, etc. for tapings. So I reported yesterday because there was a report that came out of Voices of Wrestling on their flagship show that Ring of Honor would be doing tapings on the 25th and 26th of February, and that they were going to basically tape like a month of shows there, and that would be the build up to Supercard of Honor. 4 weeks of shows there, which is very similar to the NXT taping schedule in Orlando, actually.
Right.
The old one, black and gold. So I followed up on that report and got some details, found out it will be taped in Orlando. And so
At the Universal.
that part I could not confirm.
Yeah.
That's my hunch.
Yeah, I would think so, right?
Yeah. And so we dropped that on Fightful Select yesterday. Now it's everywhere. And shout out to everybody who uses the name Will Washington when actually sharing that report and not just Fightful, which granted it was published on Fightful, but
I let him know who said it. Brad.
Yeah, a few places were like Fightful's Will Washington reports, blah, 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 blah. And then some were just like, well, Fightful reports. And it's like, okay, give me my credit, damn it. Because you would be like Dave Meltzer said. You wouldn't say.
They would. You wouldn't say the wrestling reporter said.
Yeah, you would say the specific one. Or you'd say Sean Ross Sapp said. So you know what? I'm not a reporter. I don't do this that often. So the few times I do, put my name on it. It's on the story.
On my motherfucking name. Okay?
Anyway, so yeah, I did find out that that's where it's going to be. I couldn't confirm the location. That's my hunch, is that it's Universal Studios, but I wasn't willing to say definitively in the story that that's what it's going to be.
Have we said also, good luck to Maria, and hopefully, surgery went well. So, well wishes to her.
Yeah, well wishes to Maria. And a Ring of Honor staple, Maria Kanellis. And hopefully she's able to make all of that. That'd be cool. But yeah, so the cool thing about all of this is it's going to be good to have weekly TV back for Ring of Honor.
Yep.
Jeff Jarrett talked about how he attended the last dark tapings at Universal Studios, and he felt like there's some things that could change. And of course, if there's anybody more experienced with wrestling tapings at Universal Studios, it is Jeff motherfucking Jarrett. That man experienced them in WCW.
Studio wrestling he's experienced with every kind of wrestling there could ever be.
But that man taped there for years with Impact, and so he knows studio tapings, and so he at least knows walking into it, all right, this is what you got to do for studio tapings. And so I am hoping that we can see a little bit of his expertise on the matter make its way into whatever they end up taping for Ring of Honor.
And also on top of that, the other news that they announced this week that AEW is going to be doing house shows now.
House shows.
Also a Jeff Jarrett, I'm guessing, thing, because
he said that directly.
Yeah.
On his podcast, he straight up said, "This is me, and I'm gonna be
my world." Yeah, we got it.
And he's like, "Hey, these house shows are my world." And this is, he said that if anybody knows running, little ass towns, he knows running them, and that's what he's gonna bring to the table. I'm happy for that. Let's see what that ends up doing for the roster.
Should be interesting.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm looking forward to Ring of Honor Weekly TV. It's gonna be on Honor Club. I'll subscribe. Hell, Fightful. If you need anybody to do Ring of Honor post shows.
Oh, yeah, me too. I'm in for those.
So, actually give it to Reg before you do that. I already have enough shows.
Totally. Definitely. Sign me up. I'm here for these Ring of Honor post shows, baby.
Yeah. So, got to do those on a weekly basis. That show's going
to how fast is it going to be? Do we know that? Like, how fast from tapings to release?
Well, so my theory is if they're taping 4 shows over those 2 days, there's only 4 weeks before Supercard of Honor. So essentially, I imagine they're just gonna have to start pumping those out like that week. Pretty much you tape, and then I would guess, you pretty much have to start dropping them the very next week, and just drop them one by one. You tape 4 shows, bam, 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 bam. You're built up into Supercard of Honor.
Lit.
Cool.
I'm excited.
And then, honestly, I would tape, if I were Tony, I know he's going to do a buy-in, but, like, I would also do that thing NXT used to do, which is at takeovers.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, they would tape matches for NXT TV.
Use the big crowd that's there to get a taping in. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I would do that, too.
That's where Velveteen Dream debuted.
Oh, here he
in
goes.
Chicago.
Yeah. Let's see. We got Mr. CJ Lilly says, if Sami had won the Rumble, you wouldn't have had the closing segment that was perfect. And Gunther versus Cody is a good post-WrestleMania feud for Cody, I feel.
Totally.
That too. Alex Luna says, does Cody relinquish the Universal title the next night? Big thing he talks about is only wanting the WWE title. He's never said he only wants the WWE title. That's just the one he keeps name dropping because honestly, that's a generic name for a title. You could also
I just think it's in his brain. He's like, the WWE title's the big title over there. Here, he hasn't gotten used to being like the Universal Undisputed blah 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 or that shit. Though.
Yeah, because on Raw he did directly say the Undisputed Universal Championship. He said it that way, and that's the same thing Sami Zayn said. Because like when you're having the promos written, of course you're gonna get the nomenclature right. But like if you're just talking in an interview, you're gonna be like, yeah, I want the WWE Championship. I don't think it was. I don't think he's put as much thought into it as people think he was.
Are you saying that Cody was doing a Ronda thing where you're saying he doesn't want to say Universal Championship?
I think he's just saying things. I think he's just like, it's just a generic name for a belt. And that's, I think, what he's been talking about this whole time. That's my theory on it.
It is a little funny that those quotes kept coming out that Ronda doesn't want to say women's championship. And the next thing you know, she's not champion anymore.
Chi-Town Spur says, the fans that would be bothered by this don't go to WWE shows. There won't be booing.
I agree. I do think that some of the crowd that goes to those shows do want to see Sami get that moment, but I do feel like that's more of an internet thing than the people that go to the shows.
I do think Cody could get booed in Canada. I think just by being, and I don't even think it has a lot to do.
Depends on who's wrestling in Canada, though, right?
I don't know. Canada. Remember, Canada got known as Jerry Lawler would put it. It's Bizarroland. But it's
they kind of know though something about Cody. I don't know
because I could see in Canada this guy coming out draped in American flags and calling himself the American Nightmare.
I'd be wanting to boo him sometimes, honestly. With all the
I could see that in Canada, and because I think about like where was, and I bet you it was Montreal, wasn't it? Actually, now that I'm saying this out loud, where was No Way Out 2003? That was Montreal, right? Probably the same exact arena. Montreal, Quebec, Canada. All right. No Way Out 2003, because that show had wasn't it Jeff Hardy versus Chris Jericho on it, and the fans booed Jeff Hardy. And that's like one of the only times Jeff Hardy's gotten a negative reaction his whole career was specifically WWE. But Jeff Hardy versus
Rock
Chris
Hogan too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fans were not into Jeff Hardy on that show though, and.
Man. Wow, man, that's crazy. And I mean, man, we haven't heard anything about Jeff. I hope he's okay, man.
Yeah,
I've heard a little bit about Jeff, but nothing I'm willing to put out there because it's not my. This is a little more than just wrestling, but but as far as his rehab stuff is concerned, I kind of know the details on that, but not that I'm willing to say publicly without clearing some of that. Let's see. Jake Salazar said, the fact that Bray Wyatt shamelessly said he's proud of his work will forever be hilarious to me. Like, come on, bro. You know this is absolute trash. He don't think so.
I don't think he thinks that.
But see, I don't even understand that. Like, of course he'd be proud of what he's doing. He's enjoying what he's doing. What's wrong with that? Like, that'd be like if somebody that doesn't like our podcast was like, yo, y'all are proud of that? Yeah.
Yeah, very proud.
Yeah. Leonard Aaron says, I won't ever drink Pitch Black because of that match. Might be one of the worst matches I've ever seen ever. The Bray Wurst is atrocious right now. Jake Salazar says, Cinnamon Toast Crunch in a cell match. Let's see. Chi-Town Spurs says, speaking of crossovers, when are we getting that AEW Last of Us crossover show? I could see them doing it, actually. I mean, they did the Game of Thrones stuff. Makes perfect sense. Last of Us, by the way, has been dope. And this is coming from somebody who's never played the Last of Us games. And people keep asking me, how can you watch a show without playing the games? That's exactly why I like the show, guys. Because I don't know
without playing the game. Yeah.
I don't know the story. Right. And so therefore, all of this is surprising to me. That moment that happens in the first episode with a certain person that I'm not going to say anything if you don't know the story, but like everybody who's played the games was like, yeah, how could you not see that coming? And I'm like, because I haven't played the video games. I didn't know that was going to happen. But I am enjoying this story. People, I even appreciate the people who have played the games who are like, wow, I really love how accurate this is to the games. And that's cool. I want you to watch it from that perspective. Don't ask me to watch it from that perspective. I'm not going to play the games right now because I'm too into the show. And I want to experience the show. I want to experience the story as new, not as a comparison. It's kind of like the same thing with Game of Thrones, where I knew people who read the books and were like, oh, well, this isn't accurate. This isn't accurate. That's cool. I'm taking this in as its own thing.
It's fucking dragons shooting fire at each other.
Like, or appreciating that it is accurate. Whatever. To me, I'm just like, I'm just taking this in as a brand new story. But I am 3 episodes in, loving The Last of Us. It's very good.
That's what's up.
So, if this is an accurate video game show, cool. If it's not an accurate video game show, I don't care. I think it's a good show. So that's it.
Yeah, we don't get a lot of adaptations from video games that are good. So you gotta take them when you can get them.
And I just want it to be good. I don't care if it's accurate per se. Except Mortal Kombat. Man, I want a Mortal Kombat to just be fucking accurate. But mainly because the story is good to me. And I think that the story wasn't good in the more recent Mortal Kombat.
But some of those we just like set ourselves up because we want like them to be shooting, them to do special effects that are gonna look okay, and it's just so hard to shoot a fucking fireball.
Let's see. WWE LOL says WWE did Bray and LA Knight dirty. No way the match was cut short with it being sponsored. WWE should know that match needed to be longer. I don't think they had a plan.
It didn't need to be longer. I think it worked the way it was. I don't think it needed to be longer.
Yep. Adam says, what happens if the wrong people won the Rumble, like Logan Paul wins the men's or Lacey Evans wins the women's instead of Cody and Rhea? What happens then? I mean,
what have you just done?
No, I don't.
Lacey won in the women's Rumble.
No, I have thought about that, right? Like, what if, there's the spots, and granted, they prepare for these things in their preparation. But of course, you have to think about those instances where, like, Rhea Ripley... Because it's happened before, right? Batista was not supposed to fall out of the ring at the 2005 Rumble. He just lost his balance with Cena on his shoulders and fell over the ropes. What does happen in that instance where, like, oops, Cody
Ripley slip off the apron was beautiful, too.
Yeah, I was so scared, though, because it's like, in your mind she's supposed to win.
Yeah. But what if she accidentally touched both feet on the outside?
Yeah, she did a great job with that. I mean, and the way they built to that finish was so good. The payoff of it being, continuity from the Rumble she lost, and the YouTube clip where she said, I'm not going to make that same mistake. I'm not going to choose friendship this time. I thought that was a very good finish.
Yeah. But, like, again, what does happen in an instance where, like, Cody is hanging on to the outside, but then accidentally, like, his fingertips just aren't able to grab a hold of the rope? I don't know. I'm glad that it hasn't had to happen.
In the ring and bust both the quads. That's what happened.
Hunter's already torn both quads, so like he can't. Well, what's gonna happen?
Oh, it's Hunter that does it this time. You're right.
Yeah, Hunter comes out and
coming down, bust both his quads, sitting on the ground, and they're both looking at. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, because like I said, we have seen the winner on the outside over the top rope in Batista. So,
or you're gonna get me in trouble with my mom because I'm gonna call the WWF hotline trying to find out who won between Bret Hart and Lex Luger and get the phone bill back, and she's gonna be pissed. They could also do that, do an ending where you have to call in to the WWF hotline to hear the winner, and then I get in trouble. Thanks a lot, Vince McMahon. You've been fucking me over for a long time, sir.
Mr. CJ Lilly says, wrestling has more than one royal family. The Bloodline versus the Rhodes will be a good story. Thoughts on Asuka? Yeah, we already just answered that one. Let's see. I'm going to keep going because we got a wrap soon. So JB Love says, woke up just in time to hear Phil burning down the Snyderverse. Grabs always an awesome start to the weekend. Much love, gentlemen.
I didn't burn down the Snyderverse. Warner Brothers did. They saw that shit was trash and got that up out of it.
Shane Heiss says, what would be the best fit for Jay White? Love what you guys do. I
don't know, man. I don't know, man. I could see him doing either one. Like, because we got access on Ask Grapsody too. I could see him going to AEW. I could see him going to WWE as well. I feel like right now, if he wanted to get slotted right into the world title scene, WWE might be the better pick because I feel like now is a perfect time for him to slide in. He's got kind of history with Cody. You've got history with Finn Balor there. Well, don't have history with Finn Balor. You have connections with Finn Balor there. There's interesting stuff he could do with WWE.
Brainmore says, at least he shouldn't run for president, LOL. Not sure who that was in reference to.
Probably Cody.
Probably Cody.
He did say he's running for senator. I don't know if he's still.
Oh, that's right. He was
he
saying that. That's right. That's right.
Tom Talks Rubbish says, love that you all put your families first. Big love. Thanks for being awesome. I think it was in reference to me not being able to make Mania. I mean, yeah, my family will always come before anything. Dragon Master Adam says, do you think WWE should send trainees on excursions? That would be great.
I've been saying they need to send Dom to Mexico for so long to learn how to fucking do Lucha Libre like his dad, but they're never going to do it.
Anime Utaku says, since Swerve's thing is hating second-gen wrestlers, should he at least tease going for Saraya and or -1, even though TK and Warner Bros. Discovery wouldn't allow it?
You got to beat up -1.
I mean, I hope people see what this is tying into, which is that specifically he's tired of the roads. And the reason he's tired of the roads is because of all of the stuff that they take from Dusty. And Dusty just happened to have a big influence on a lot of former NXT guys, including a guy who he gave a nickname to, Limitless Keith Lee.
Very interesting.
Like, hopefully this is all coming together for you, that Keith Lee was named Limitless by
being like,
Dusty.
I don't like what your dad did is for like a reason.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Mr. CJ Lilly said the Sami losing to Roman is like Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. We know Order 66 is coming, and it's sad when it happens, but it's the saddest point.
I don't know what that sentence was just saying, but he was
Revenge of the Sith. You had to see it. Anakin Skywalker kills a bunch of children. And
Master Skywalker, what do we do?
Night Track says Bray's little characters ain't it. Y'all called it. Hey, as Phil says, don't put him in that. He is. His hands are clean. Irene C says, to lessen any possible fan backlash after losing at Elimination Chamber, I think Sami will give Cody his blessing to beat Roman for him and the fans. I mean, if the reaction goes 2015 Bryan, that didn't work. Bryan was very much like, okay, I lost, Roman, you do your thing. And fans were like, we don't buy that.
Absolutely not. Nope, we still want to see you win, bro. Nope, we're not taking that.
Yeah. But I don't think it's the same story.
It's not the same.
There's that.
No, it's not.
Orlando Oregano says, I will never forget when Flo Rida got beat in a rap battle to Bo Dallas. I was there to see it live.
Yo.
That's the good thing I want to say about Uncle Howdy. He cooked Flo Rida.
Albert Pont says, since WWE reached out to both Rock and Austin to face Roman at Mania, is there a chance Roman retains and Cody wins at SummerSlam to keep the streak alive? Don't do that. There's no reason to have Cody in his one goal lose on his first attempt. Don't do that. There's no reason to at this stage.
Don't feet, man.
Not trying to hold out on trying to get the Rock and Stone Cold. Yeah, that's not,
no. Like, I'm not a fan of kicking the can down the road when you don't have to. I hope Hunter knows better than that, because you don't have to do that. What do you get out of Roman retaining that you haven't gotten for the last 3 years? It's over.
Yeah. No.
Numbers.
Please don't do it.
But Cody numbers are great. So, like, I don't know. I wouldn't do that. Antoine Fair says, so I think people in the IWC are trying to put Sami and Daniel Bryan in the same mode, but the thing that is different is Bryan was on man against the system. Sami, if they change that, affects 4 people. Again, it's never been about the title for Sami. And now it is, but you do that for the chamber, and that's it.
And I mean, I feel like he made that pretty clear last night in his promo when he was like, no, this was never about the title for me. I actually was not a threat to you. But again, I feel like that's the story they've been telling between Roman and Sami, is that Sami really never wanted anything from him. And I think it's that Roman got paranoid because that's the Roman character. He got paranoid and he felt like, no, you're always going to pick Kevin Owens over me. And he got insecure.
Yeah. Orlando Orego says, Becky versus Bayley does not feel like a WrestleMania match, IMO. I wonder what they do with Becky this year.
Yeah, I think they're going to end the Bayley stuff with the cage match. I don't think they're going to extend that to WrestleMania.
Yeah. Albert
I don't know
says,
what they're doing with Becky.
I feel like Sami as champ would go over like Liv. He can beat mid guys, but not Lashley, Seth, Drew, Cody. He would be a placeholder, and that sucks.
I agree. I think that he would fill a void of kind of like Foley as champion where it would be a good moment. But I don't think that that's a long-term thing.
Jared says, swap women's tag for women's mid-card. I think swap SmackDown title for women's mid-card, to me, is what I would do. It already kind of is.
I wouldn't mind if they turned the SmackDown Women's Championship into like an IC title.
Yeah.
But I don't think they should go with without having two singles titles at least.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is where we disagree. I don't want two titles of anything anymore. No more two titles. Night Tracks says the Iconics were the only actual tag team who won.
Yeah, they are, but I mean, Bayley and Sasha were a tag team. They cared about tag team wrestling. They did an entire training and everything with FTR to be a tag team. So they were a tag team.
They were a tag team, but I get the idea that they weren't, the Iconics were not based around being singles performers. They were a true tag team.
Right. Yeah. I like I said, I get what he's saying, but Bayley and Sasha, their aspirations were to be a tag team. Their aspirations were to build a division, and that's different than just putting two singles wrestlers together. Because the whole time they were a tag team, they weren't like, all right, I want to be SmackDown or Raw Women's Champion as well. They paid their entire focus was on tag team wrestling.
Mr. CJ Lilly says they need to start bringing people to NXT as tag teams to start, like Toxic Attraction, and the current champions make ready-made tag teams. That's
they need to just start signing women's tag teams like they do with the men. I've been saying this for the longest. Go and sign the Renegade Twins. They're a ready-made tag team. Go and sign somebody like the Sea Stars. They're tag team. And
the Renegade Twins were great on Rampage last night, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so no, sign women's tag teams, and
really
that
good.
way you don't have to develop them in a company. They already exist.
Yeah.
JB Love says, The Last of Us is my favorite game, and this show is on fire. More adaptations like this, please.
Yeah, we need
Speaking of which, though,
Dig Dug game, maybe like
Speaking of which, if you guys haven't played Hi-Fi Rush, it's so good. It's like that's going to be a hard one to beat for Game of the Year. It's in Game Pass. It surprise dropped last week, and I think literally it is graphically the most beautiful game I have played in years. Very inventive gameplay. I love that it's rhythm-based combat, and I like it. I like the rhythm base of the combat. I also like that it warns you at the very beginning. They're like, would you like to play this game in stream mode? What is stream mode, you ask? This game has a lot of licensed music that might get your channel or shit flagged. So if you play this game in stream mode, it'll replace the songs with original songs that are of the same tempo. So you're still playing the game at the right beat, but you're not getting the licensed music. And I thought, that's kind of genius. Like, how have no other games done that for people?
That's where we are in gaming, that, people have to care about what streamers are doing because streamers are such a big part of the gaming community now.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And the idea of, let's make sure we don't get your channel flagged. We're not going to put licensed music here. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I haven't played it yet. I've downloaded it, but I haven't played it yet. Every time I turn my Xbox on, I have been playing Overwatch because Overwatch is an addictive game.
Yeah, I mean, it's only 6 hours long. So, and for me, I love that. I know the average gamer is like the longer the game, the better. But look, man, I got 2 kids upstairs right now. I got a whole lot of housework to do. I'm not trying to play a 100-hour game right now. When they said this game's only 6 hours, I thought, yes, that's more of this, please. Like, I want a straight 6-hour story. I can sit, play it in 2 sittings, and I'm good. Or when I found out it was 6 hours, I actually played it over the span of 6 days, played an hour a day. I was done in a week.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll check it out. It kind of reminds me of the same vein of like Jet Set Radio or like Sunset
Yeah.
Overdrive.
Yeah, it's very good. It's and like the gameplay is very Devil May Cry, but like the combat's very rhythm based. And instead of penalizing you, penalizing your character, because they're like, it even warns you. It says your moves will always be on beat, but so no matter when you time out your attack, he's always going to attack on beat. But we're grading you on how you were able to basically hit the button to the beat of this song. And you can also do beat assist, where it's got a little pulse at the bottom, where so you can at least see when
If you ain't got no rhythm.
Yeah. So there's that too. Let's see. Jake Salazar says, Bray being proud of this is like me operating the crane at work and dropping something and clocking out being like, yeah, I'm proud of today.
Jake is on Bray's neck. They need to come at
Man,
him and not at me.
We get it. You don't like Bray, bro.
Mhm.
Okay.
DNC Digital says, NXT talent allowed to work indie dates now. Hope all is well, guys. Big fan, sending love. By the way, felt nostalgic and started binging Ghost Rider. Oh man, I forgot about that show.
MX talent allowed
Ghost
to work
Rider.
indie dates. Is that real?
Is that real? I hadn't heard that. Did that come out of news today?
Huh.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. That's cool if they're allowing it.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be really cool.
Yeah, chat, is that a thing? Either way, folks, we got one more from Board Dude 360. I can't get it up on the screen, but I'm gonna read this. It's another Bray one. It says, I hate to say it, however, Vince was right with Bray. The guy is trash, and if he's happy with this crap, he should go make crap scary movies for Shudder or something. I have found fun in treating Uncle Howdy like a sassy Southern gent. I do declare.
Vince was not right because half
that
of this was his fucking fault.
That was
Oh, yeah.
that was a Codaholic inside joke, by the way. The I declare thing is hilarious.
And
Matthew.
speaking of Cultaholic, this Wednesday on Day After Dynamite, I am reuniting with my longtime former collaborator, but guy I have known for years, Tom Campbell. He and I are going to be co-hosting Day After Dynamite this week.
Shout out to Tom. He celebrated a birthday this week too.
He did. And I have known Tom a really long time. I mean, the first podcast I ever did with Tom, we previewed WrestleMania 23. And it talked about whose head we thought was going to be shaved in the Battle of the Billionaires, as Shawn Michaels going to walk out WWE champion. Me and Tom have known each other a very, very, very long time. He used to write a segment for RBR on the weekly called The Lightning Round. I barely ever told people that, but that segment used to be kind of a weekend update type segment where we would read news headlines, wrestling headlines in kind of funny ways. Tom wrote all of those. So I've always
I need to
relied
bring
on
that back.
I know.
I kind of like that idea. I kind of like that concept.
That was a Tom Campbell thing. He was very good at it, and except when he didn't know American references. I remember there was one where he didn't know what whiteout was called, and he's like, he messaged me and he's like, "What do you guys call liquid paper?" And I was like, "Whiteout," and he goes, oh, "Okay, cool." And
Liquid paper.
I've never heard anybody call it that.
yeah, I mean, well, that's an American brand, right? But so it was funny how there was a little disconnect between some of the references he had to make jokes for. It's like we say Q-tips, they don't say Q-tips, so like the little things like that were how we had a disconnect. But it was fun. It was a good time. I love Tom Campbell.
Because they don't call it chips. They call French fries chips.
Shout out to Beans on Toast Twitter. Y'all are lit.
Anyway, Brian Alvarez was who put it out there that they can work indie dates now. So
Very interesting.
Interesting.
so that's that.
I
Great
feel
way
like-
to end.
I feel like that's their point of scouting other places. Just
Yeah,
like that.
totally.
That is.
Yeah.
Well, either
I
way,
bet.
thank you to everybody who checked out Grapsody this week. It's always a fun time. It's the most time I get to spend doing a podcast. I have literally spent 5 hours with these two guys this week podcasting. And we could probably talk for even more, but Sean's not paying us for any more. So that wraps up this edition of Grapsody. No, shout out Jimmy Van, actually. But that's it for this edition of Grapsody. Thank you for being here. For Philip Lindsay, for Righteous Reg, I'm Will Washington. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.